Good morning. This is Ed Smith with Universal Digest, and I am honored today to be with Brian Bland, who is a Sasquatch expert. And we've had time to get to know each other. We've enjoyed some other broadcasts and podcasts. And Brian brings to the table a lot of very constructive information today on his research that began in 2012. So without further ado, let me introduce Brian Bland and let him start and give a little bit of his history of how he got started with all this. And I guarantee you, viewers, first of all, we are both honored that you're here and watching. You will enjoy this broadcast. Brian has brought to the table a lot of really important, really fascinating images of his experiences. Hello, Brian.
How are you doing? But I must correct you, Edward.
Oh,
See, I'm trying to be very official here.
no, you're not. It's not working.
The word expert is a little bit too haughty-taughty for me. I would like to say that I'm an experiencer and a student of the Sasquatch people.
Correction noted and accepted. I apologize for the expert part. This is a lot less egotistical to say, yes, you're an experiencer and are in contact with the Ari clan of Sasquatch. And thank you for enlightening me.
Well, that's just the beginning, Ed. No, I'm just
of which there is no end, Brian. Folks, ladies and gentlemen, we have gotten the chance to know each other very well, and we have very similar personalities. So uh, please be forewarned. You may enjoy this more than you plan.
Yeah, we can go right off the rails pretty fast, but I'll try to keep the train moving
Thank you.
in a semblance of order and in one direction.
Well, thank you, Brian. I would fall into that chasm right along with you, and we would just lose it for the rest of the 2 hours or so that we are together. But we have a lot of material to cover, and thanks for the clarification. So please start off, how you got started in 2012 and what happened during and after that time till now.
Well, I mean, I think that Sasquatch connections and connections with star nations and things of that nature,
Mhm.
quite often when they take people under their wing or whatever, it's because there's a past history.
Hmm.
I believe in reincarnation. And I believe that we've been had many different incarnations and lives, and um, and so quite often when these entities or beings get a hold of you, it's because you've, like I said, you do have a past with them. So I feel that I've been connected with them all my life and prior. And that kind of a big, well, let me put it this way, a big clue to that is the fact that I was always extremely fascinated with Sasquatch and everything about Sasquatch all my life. So that's usually a good indicator that you have some kind of connection with them. Um, like for instance, the Loch Ness Monster and UFOs and stuff of that nature. I had some interest in, but my heart and my passion was with Sasquatch, always was. And I can remember every time I would be driving in my vehicle and through wooded areas, I'd always be looking into the wood to try to catch a glimpse of a legend. But in any event, that said, in 2012, I was walking my dogs. I had two little chihuahuas at the time, and all of a sudden, as I'm walking along the dike, which is a waterway, I looked over to my immediate right into the mountains, and I got a telepathic message in my head, mind speak, so to speak, which can come in many different forms. But this was a voice in my head, which is the classic example of mind speak, and it said, "Go to the mountains." And so that's kind of started my journey. And I used to work a job doing security at night, and I had access to the internet all night and whatever. So I'd be looking up sites like the late Bobby Short's Bigfoot encounters. And I came across a fellow from my local area who, him and his son had found a juvenile trackway in the snow right up where I lived. And I said, oh my God, they're right around me. And so I got a hold of the fellow, and then, we connected, we became friends. And from the very first day I went into the woods, they started working with me. Because one thing about the Sasquatch is if they call to you, they're not going to pussyfoot around. They're going to hit you up right away, and to get your interest, to get you into the, I don't want to say program, but to get your focus on them so that they can begin working with you. And so quite often in the first few years, it's very intense, and there's a lot of you hear a lot of physical kind of things like wood knocking, screams, whoops, stuff of that nature, because they're trying to get you integrated into a relationship with them, I suppose. To catch your interest early. And so anyway, as soon as we hit the trail, this guy and I, within 10 minutes of meeting him, he pointed down on the forest path directly below my feet, and I saw some sticks that were peeled sticks that stood out bright in contrast to the forest floor backdrop, and they formed some kind of, looked like a design or a message or something, and it was quite obvious. And he said, the Sasquatch makes these. And that was glyphs, which is something that they've been working with me with for many, many years. Um, and over the years, I've got to know the meaning of some of them, and I communicate with them through glyphs. And but it's way deeper than that. But glyphs are a tool and a teaching tool. And I don't know, for about the first 4 or 5 years of the 10+ years I've been involved in this, I don't think I ever took my face off the forest floor, because I was constantly looking for them, and they were delivering them up in a lot, like they were everywhere. And now, at the point I'm at now, I don't see nearly as many, but I see them when they're very personal or important to me. They will leave me important ones. But it's kind of the relationship constantly evolves.
And isn't it true that now it's more of mental telepathy or mind speak, where you're being contacted instead of glyphs as much?
Yeah. Well, and like I said, I still get glyphs, but it's not as many. But like I said, if they're important ones, then I will get them, and because we can communicate back and forth with them. But yeah, right now my communication with them is more of an energetic communication, because energy is the universal language.
Yes.
Uh, and so they communicate with me through generally when I'm speaking about them, because I have my show, the Pork and Bean Show, that we were honored to have you on the other day.
Oh,
And
thank you. It was great. It was fun. And
yeah, it's a fun show. Yeah,
I met
we'll talk about some of that stuff after we get through
okay.
my intro here or whatever.
Okay.
But
Oh, this is
but uh,
excellent. Thank you.
but every single show that I do, they give me some kind of energetic nudge, and it's kind of like a confirmation that I'm talking truth, or that they like what I'm talking about, or it can be that they like the person I'm talking to, and they're open to meeting that person, so they'll let me know. It's a connection and communication through energy, and different individuals in the clan have a different energy. Like a juvenile will have like a mischievous, youthful kind of energy, like a little bud.
Hmm.
Uh, the females will have a softer, gentler kind of energy. Re, when I first was introduced to his energy, was like, "Whoa, dude, like back off!" And you know what he did immediately? He didn't back off, like go away, but he pulled his energy back, so it
So
was
it's not to overwhelm you.
yeah, because I had a relationship, uh, teacher student wise, with his daughter. She was the first one who actually became interested in me. And she was the one who actually gave me my Love Zap experience, which was like an all-knowing of like the universe. And I know it sounds haughty-taughty, but it was an amazing experience. It was just like universal knowing and about connection and love and no judgment and don't put ourselves above everything else. We're all part of the universal collective. Like people do that.
Mm-hmm.
We kind of
True.
think we're and that is the reason for division because we put ourselves above the earth, nature, the animals, or whatever, and that we're actually connected. So that's exactly the wrong way to go. And they taught me about no judgment, no division, no fear, that kind of thing. And this download, which over years you have to unravel some of it, even though it's all there immediately and it's just an instant knowing. You still have to kind of unravel it in your head so that you can bring it to your consciousness, in the present times. Whatever. Does that make sense?
It makes all the sense. Now, Ari's daughter's name, what's her name?
Raja say.
Raja Say.
Yeah. But anyway, I just wanted to say quickly that this teaching and this download, um, it is, people talk about a conscious shift and how people are being contacted and, raising our vibrations and getting out of this craziness we're in today. Well, I think that conscious shift is actually raising our vibrations, and everything that they taught me in that Loves app is the key to that because there's no hatred, there's no division. You can't fall into all the lies that are being propagated and that we're being taught generation after generation. So it's really really profound stuff.
It's interesting in our conversations of what you had said, it fits as a major common denominator or likeness to many different other experiences, both spiritual and physical in nature. And from me being an experiencer, especially in ufology and actually seeing another being, um, you just can't take that away, but it's all part of a higher vibrational function. As an example, people say, well, why can't I see a Sasquatch? Why can't I see these extraterrestrials? And sometimes you see the crafts, but it comes down to this. You also make yourself available to it. You ask, and when they mentor and teach you, many different beings, to me, the universe is teeming with life, and there are so many different teachers of which we have been so blessed to be a part. And so it's common sense to me, at least, not a mystery. And your objective approach and how that transpired to this moment. And for the viewing audience, we're about to see some of the images that support exactly what you are saying, Brian, like Little Bud, which is one of the juveniles, and very demonstrative picture. I was also very blessed the fact that in all the images that you've shared with me, that I saw the Sasquatch. I saw the beings, half cloaked, partially cloaked, and it was right there immediately to see. And as you have mentioned, it's almost a quandary we have as to why many people can't see it or refuse to see it. What do you say of that, Brian?
Well, if the pictures are for you and whatever, then you will see it, and sometimes other people can't see it. But yeah, I think you have to be of open mind and open heart, and on maybe a vibration in order to be allowed to see it. Because I see more and more as time goes on. But yeah, it befuddles me because when I look at these pictures, they just and that wasn't a FUD comment. Befuddles.
I was
We won't get into that.
nope. I thought that was perfectly a-okay. But it befuddles me too, because even in our arena, when I say, okay, those who have not had an experience, none of us ever expect them to fully understand or comprehend because they've not had the experience. So for them, it's either they believe what you say or they don't.
Yeah.
But that's not stopping us. the other beings, extraterrestrials, the rest. It's really a no-brainer on the fact that you won't see them unless they want you to see them, because they can read your mind. They know. And telepathy comes in many, as you said earlier, many different forms. It can
Yeah.
be a mind speak where it's linguistic, or it can be even emotional, or it can be totally spiritual. Um, once one experiences it, it's another instance that cannot be taken away.
Thank you for reeling me in because I just about got into my FUD voice, and we that would really we'd start going sideways there. But you know, but mind speak is you know, it's not like you were saying, and you were correct. It's not just
Mhm,
like a voice in your head. It can be thought placement, which is something that they do with me almost daily. You have a thought, and then the answer is right before you. In some manner, or sometimes it comes further down the road. But
mhm,
they give you a thought in order to uh, effectively give you a lesson or an answer,
mhm.
right?
You did, and you brought up something about, excuse me, earlier about glyphs, about what they leave for you to see and understand over a period of time. Um, it can even happen to a novice like me, because when we first met, I knew almost nothing, whether it was Yetis or Sasquatch or Bigfoot or things like that. I knew nothing. And you've actually been more my mentor in learning through RE, um, and I am all the better for it.
Yeah, yeah. Did you want to, is there anything else you wanted to go with in the introduction before we talk about your experience? Because you had an experience with RE actually.
Yes, and I had it yesterday, and it was demonstrative and it was beautiful. And during your broadcast, I actually went immediately into tears. I just couldn't control it, but I was very happy.
Oh, I
But
thought you were just kind of, you were actually, that was actually, I know the experience was all legitimate, but I thought you were just kind of hamming it up with the tears. That was
no, not at all.
that was real.
That was all of a sudden it was real, uncontrollable, like you've experienced.
Oh wow.
And it just came out. I was not hamming it up. I heard someone say tears on demand. Well, I did not demand these tears. They just happened. And no, it was very real. But on the intro, what else would you like to add before we cover that briefly before we get into your story line, which is
Well,
not.
I do want to get into your experience because there's some very amazing things there that are worth talking about and introducing the people to. But I would just like to say that you know, the Sasquatch are people. At least the female DNA, the mitochondrial DNA, is all female human. The male portion of the DNA is undetermined. So, but they are basically a people, and like people, they can have many different personalities, and some can be very, very friendly, and some can be not so friendly.
Mhm,
But basically, I think that the way that we interact with them, or the way that they interact with us, is determined by how we approach them. If we approach them with respect,
mhm,
uh, and you know, consideration and love, and don't look at them as monsters, which is a lie. They're not monsters. Then they will reciprocate in like manner. Um, so I just like to say that you know the ones I know are very very wise spiritual teachers. They're interdimensional, and they're not monsters. And as a matter of fact, their abilities are amazing. They can shapeshift, they can cloak, they can mind speak, they can teleport, they're interdimensional. They're just amazing beings. And so, you know, when people watch these Sasquatch or Bigfoot shows on TV, it's just there's not a whole lot of truth in a lot of those. You get little glimpses of it, but they don't seem to expand on those thoughts. And that's where the real knowledge and the real crux of who they are lies, is in the, you know, the, not just, well, I saw it walking off into the woods and stuff. It lies in the woo, or however one would like to describe it. That's where you begin to learn about them. And so anyway, so getting on to your experience, I told you to just, I suggested to you that you just approach them with an open heart, an open mind, and say, "Hey, I'm Ed, and I'm open to meeting you." It's really as simple as that. And so yesterday you had an amazing experience with Ari, who is my clan leader and is a omnipotent being. I mean,
Mhm. Well,
obviously.
as you taught me before I met you, these visual Sasquatch Yeti experiences on television and other social media areas sometimes were quite negative to me, and I had no concept of the reality of which you speak now. And now I do have that reality, and I'm all the better for it. These beings, as you said, they can operate interdimensionally, like so many of the heavenly hosts and all. They can manifest themselves in any way they want, and they can be anywhere they want to be. As you had mentioned too, that when I opened my heart and my mind, I was kind of expecting after we talked yesterday to, 2 days ago, maybe see a glyph on the ground or a cross stick or a welcoming stick, as you said, or to see Ari's A that he lays down. And these beings being uncloaked, 12 feet tall, that's
Yeah.
pretty big being for being interdimensional and being able to go anywhere. So
And by the way, what you said is quite often how they will introduce themselves. People will see a stick sign or something, but what you had was much more dramatic, right?
it was incredibly dramatic. I was expecting to see those glyphs. I looked around the back of my house or the front door or see maybe as you had said too, I could make a glyph when I go into the Sequoia Mountains, which is only a half an hour drive from here. But I just simply opened up and in meditation and asked Ari, if you would, like to say hello. And so we were having an unusually super warm September in Central California. So I was doing a morning swim, and being wet, you really don't want to touch a camera. And my wife of so many years was unavailable at the door to get my Canon camera. And so as I was getting out and drying off on the pool, I was looking around. I saw these very interesting cloud formations, which is highly unusual. From the east, it was almost like a storm cell of gray clouds coming across towards the west. And from the north, they were a little more stagnant, but they were moving more towards the west. Again, like that. This cloud section I saw just stopped. It just stayed there. And the first thing I noticed was totally unprepared, not expecting anything. Ari's stick of Ari in the clan leader appeared in the clouds.
Well,
And it was just,
be a little more specific. You said his A, which is his signature, and the X appeared in the clouds.
yes, I'm sorry, thank you. And it was there with nothing else. It was a billowy white cloud formation that was not moving. Everything else was moving, but this whole big cell area was not. And so then as I looked up, I thought, wow, well, that's just what Brian was talking about. It disappears, and Ari's face shows up with the kind of pinnacle head, two eyes, bulbous nose, and a huge smile underneath it. And it stayed there. It didn't move. And of course, I'm not being incredulous, but I'm also being a little surprised. Well, this is really interesting. I'll have to talk to Brian about it because there it is, but it's in the clouds. And then I noticed to the right a hand appearing, the big hand like Ari's, and where the fingers were protruding was just clear blue sky, no clouds, but a defined hand like he was waving at me. Well, to me, he was waving at me. So, as my wife did see, I was waving back saying, "Hello, Ari," you know? And then I went, well, that's all the validation I really need. And of course, when you gave me a guest cameo appearance on your show, the Pork and Bean Show yesterday, then by the way, viewers, honest, we've got all this labeled for you, including the links at the end of our broadcast, so that you can go there and see Brian's work as well. So when I got on your show, it became very spontaneous when you asked me, and then when the tears came, they were not hamming it up. It just suddenly happened to me. Then after that happened to me, I remembered the number of times you showed me and told me what had happened to you. It was just totally uncontrollable, right?
You're just like totally calm and, like just going about like a regular day, and all of a sudden it's just like, like tears rolling down your cheeks, and because they hit you up with such an incredible love that seems like it's a universal God source, or like right from source kind of love.
I take it no different than what you just said, and I agree. And the esteemed guests that you had on the program too were very receptive to what occurred, and so I felt even more blessed by the time that I left you after about a half an hour, because you had a good show going on by then. When I first appeared and I heard your other guests talking who were very experienced, I just sat back going, "Wow, this is fantastic." So it's an enrichment in my life um, that I get to experience this with such a limited knowledge I had about Sasquatch and RE and his clan, and there are other clans about. And just this is an incredible, fascinating experience. And yes, I felt the energy until I got off, and then it waned. I think with you with RE explaining his energy levels, he treated me I could just feel it. I know what I felt, and it was very gentle, very loving, and I'm all the better for it.
Yeah, exactly. So did you feel anything when you were looking up in the clouds? Did you feel his energy?
Oh yes, I wasn't stymied. I wasn't frozen. I was aware, and I could feel it. And there's Ari, and he's saying hello, waving and smiling. And and as you had said, that Ari, like others, can appear any way, shape, or form they want. People think, well, I got to go to the woods to see Sasquatch. Totally not true. They can come to you if you're open to it and they want that to happen, as you've told me.
Well, yeah, and I've seen his image in smoke and in the clouds many times. As a matter of fact, like I've told you before, he actually appeared in my room out of a cloud of smoke, right in my room in the
Wow.
house. And it was just like a white mist of smoke appeared in my room, like, what's this doing here? And his image got really, really sharp within the smoke, and I could see his head and his shoulders, and he looked at me for a few seconds, and then he just dissipated, which is what you said the clouds did.
They did. Once that I got confirmation, and I know he got confirmation of my awareness and acceptance of the situation and the event. That I mean, almost suddenly it just went and dissipated. It was can't
Have you
make
ever seen a
this up.
cloud behave like that?
I've seen different things, but never anything like that. No, no,
But I mean a cloud that's there and then it just suddenly dissipates within a couple seconds.
not. It takes a little longer than that I've experienced in the past, but this one didn't. It just the clouds started moving and it dissipated and did its cloud thing, and then by the time we had talked yesterday, I went out, and since then it's been a cloudless sky, not one cloud in the sky.
Yeah. I've had some incredible experiences with him. I've had holographic visions right before my eyes. Another time I was in my room and there was like a movie reel playing right at the foot of my bed. It was like the old
Mm.
reel-to-reel ones, and I could see the perforated edges on each slide. You know how
Yes.
the old projectors?
Yep.
I can actually see it. Like I said, the perforated edges between each frame, and it was a Sasquatch walking across my view in front of a tree line, and it just kind of looked at me and just dissipated too. So I mean that's bizarre, but it was beautiful, and it's kind of funny too because a lot of people would be freaked right out with some of the stuff I've experienced, but I think that, like I said, subconscious or just under my conscious and on the subconscious level, just below the surface of consciousness, I know them and I've known them for a long time, so it's just kind of like, oh, cool, like that was neat.
Well, and I agree with you, because after my first true sighting at age 15, um, it was a no-brainer after that. These events, to those who do not experience it, we have compassion, because those of us who have had numerous experiences, something of which you cannot take from our mental and spiritual experience, that's the way it is. So, that being said, I mean, a lot of what we spoke, you already have captured in images, and we have around 44, 45 images to share in sequence. And so we've created a PowerPoint that will be um, for everyone to see. And so, Brian, is there anything more you would like to share before we get into the PowerPoint?
I think we're good to go because a lot of the stuff I want to talk about
Right.
is related to the images. There's some bunch of stories and teachings and you know uh, stuff to learn about who they are and their abilities through the pictures when I talk about them. So yeah, we're good to go.
Okay, and I will just share with the viewers that a lot of what we've been talking about, especially what Brian has been talking about, is going to be fully explained in these images. And we hope that you gain a very beneficial experience from this. And yes, no one is any different. If you really open your heart and you have a genuine desire to grow and to raise your vibrations, as we say, elevating the human condition at Universal Digest, it'll start to enrich your life in ways that I trust you will never forget.
Yeah.
And that's the experience I have with you, Brian, knowing that it's very real, very congenial. So I will go ahead and
I
do
just wanted to say, just before you get into those pictures, is that you know these are not like I've got probably 15, 20,000 pictures. And all these lessons and whatever that I learned and what I'm talking about, I didn't come up with them just from looking at one picture.
Mhm,
This is an ongoing process. It's very much like school. I
mhm.
started off like in kindergarten with simple glyphs, simple messages, and then they would add stuff, new nuances to them, and then they would go on from there. So it's like you're going through, it's actually like you're going through Sasquatch University or something.
Wow.
So all of these, and literally is. So all of these things that I'm talking about, I'm really not speculating. For one thing, they give you a knowing. They give you a knowing through their downloads or whatever, and it's also repetitive through very thorough lessons that they give you. I mean, they don't leave anything to speculation really. Once they hammer the point home pretty good, many times and in numerous different ways. So I just wanted people to know that.
And I will, in reference to that and complete agreement that I have with you, is that when I did feel Ari's presence, he's so gentle, kind, and loving. And after so many times of experiencing with you over the years, he was very gentle with me, and I could feel not a tingling, but kind of like that mentally speaking. And then it
Yeah,
just
an energy, like a whole, like a buzzing with energy.
and it flowed, and then he very gently let it down. But as he told you that he approves of me, which I'm
Yeah,
blessed, and you felt that all these miles apart, from British Columbia to California and Central Cal. It's a wonderful experience, and I'm so glad it's another open door in my experience. So thank you very much for how you've
yeah.
been so kind to me.
Having a relationship with the Sasquatch is a totally enriching and rewarding. It's a remarkable journey. So, I mean, the door's open for you. You can take it where you want. And I'm going to regress just before we get into the picture. I'm going to say, I told Ari, be nice with Eddie. Treat Eddie nice.
And I know Ari says, remember, you have a strong personality too. So be gentle with Eddie, you
Oh,
know.
don't hurt Eddie.
And he already knows that can't happen, because we really cannot be offended. In a world of offenses, that are out of control. We're in this calm of a universal blend of thought that we cannot share enough how beautiful it really is. And that's really helped me, because now when I see something from another source, um, I know that from you, I got the truth.
Yeah,
And
yeah, yeah, and you know what? As silly as that Eddie sounds or whatever, I guarantee you that RE is grinning from ear to ear because they've got a really elite sense of humor. They really are funny and they appreciate humor. So
well, we appreciate them, and I'm so glad the door is open, because I'm the type that too, on my ill deathbed or whatever, I'm gonna be cracking jokes and say people have fun. Don't
yeah,
get sad. It's the
and they
opposite.
all yeah, no, sorry, and they also say humor is is a sign of intelligence. So you and I must be the two most intelligent people on the planet Earth.
Okay, let me see what we've been smoking after that one. I doubt that sincerely, but I will say that we're a couple of the most open people, and people that love other people and want the best for other people.
Yeah,
That's what is so difficult, because we are eternal beings, and I agree as well. We have multiple lifetimes because our Supreme Father, our God, however you want to mention it, and there are so many different ways, we have found these common denominators along with some of our other colleagues who aspire in different areas. It's still all the same thing. So that's always taken into account. And when you've got these higher vibrational beings like Ari and others, wow, it just, it's an amazing, it's just amazingly good. And it carries, we've known people who have, as an example, um, knowledge of past lives to this date in a conscious fashion, which I find amazing.
yeah.
Um, and then with you and I, as nothing happens by accident, you have actually helped me grow. And then when Ari said hello yesterday, and I still feel a little something around, I know that there's nothing to worry about. Everything's going to be fine, period. And so,
Yeah.
like the sense of humor I picked up in that one image we're going to see, where Ari's footprint is there, just one, folks, no other footprints around.
I don't know if it's RE's footprint,
Oh, okay. Or
but it is one of it's a Sasquatch individual, but you know they all kind of have that sense of humor.
yeah, because they took that little twig with the leaves on it and
Yeah,
marched around and
yeah.
saying, "You look, there we are." So,
You know, but in your instance, and I'm not trying. I know we have to get to the picture, but
oh, no, fine,
this
we're fine.
kind of stuff happens all the time because I've been told, and this is with all due humility,
Mhm.
in many ways, I've been told this to uh, many different kinds of communications, energetic and otherwise. And it's an honor and it's very humbling that I represent them everywhere I go.
Yes,
And so that's quite the responsibility. And so it's very important for me to represent them in a true and forthright manner. I don't say, well, yeah, people might not believe this, so I'm not going to say it. No, no, you can't be like that. You have to be right up front, and the people who do believe it is fine, and the people who don't believe it, it doesn't really bother me.
right.
That's fine too. But if you notice on our little Saturday pot or thing that we do, the one lady, she's been in communication with RE too, and that's kind of how it works. If and this, you know, I don't want this to sound like ego thing or whatever, but if you're talking to me and I'm connecting with you, there's a very good chance that, or there is a chance that RE will connect with you because if you're in my frame of consciousness, then he's gonna pick up on that. So
And people may question this, and I agree with you. We're not motivated by money or material things. Once you have experienced that which is above, other things tend to fall by the wayside on what your objectives or your aspirations are and what you do. When, to me, and I know it's the same for you, my only aspiration is to grow and to learn and to have the experience of the communion with other beings who, even the angelic hosts, they say, look, we're only just a little higher than you are. We're no different. than other beings and humans here on Earth. And we say this too in the light that we both agree, Brian, that we're in a very, very unique place in history on Earth. And we know that the teachers that we have, the mentors we have, are helping us to help others. And that's why we're here. That's really the modus operandi, is to help others, and knowing
Yeah.
even this broadcast, if it helps just one person or more, then our job has been done here. And it's a wonderful feeling. And that
Yeah.
too is so much more rewarding and so permanent, because we're being blessed by other beings who are near us that see what we're doing.
You know what I'm finding funny, and then let's get to the pictures. But you know what I'm finding funny is this introduction has been longer than some of your entire shows.
That's very true, but they've all been substantive, and I'm blessed with the people who have been that. But this was a
Sure.
little more than an introduction. I believe it gives us more of a big picture. So when people see the images, they should be a little bit more focused on what they're seeing.
Yeah. And
So,
I can't cover everything because it's so vast and deep and whatever, but we'll cover a lot of stuff. So let's get on
but
to some pictures then.
that sounds like a winner to me. Okay, let me get here.
Oh boy, I do look like that Giorgio guy.
Yes, it's a good thing.
I look like
So,
his father,
and so
Giorgio
here's
Senior.
George O.C. Remember, I said, no, you've got to stop to think of who the prodigy really was. But this little PowerPoint we put together very, very quickly. And blessings to Giorgio, too. He's doing a fine job.
Sure.
So, being said, here we are, and we'll start with the first image. And this is Susan, your wife, and you on the side with your doggy, and saying a quick hello there.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the first one where we see the X with Ari's signature. Now, I'll leave it all up to you, and please let me know when I can advance an
Okay.
image.
Well, like I said, they can communicate with you in many ways, and one of the ways they communicate with you is through their stick writing or glyphs. And for the clan members that I connect with, I know their personal signatures. And RE's happens to be an A. Now X is friendship welcome. But I want to clarify that these meanings are my own. You have to come up with the meaning between you and them.
Mhm.
It's an agreement between you and them, and so they won't mean what they mean to me across the board for other people. Other people have to come up with their own meaning, and it's not like, oh, just think of something. And yeah, as you'll see as we go through some of the slides, it doesn't work like that. It actually is a telepathic,
Mhm.
or your intent to what the symbols mean, or what you've decided, or what you found out they mean, and then it applies to that meaning moving forward, and actually even in the past, because, well, we'll get into that because we'll see some pictures where I talk about that. Basically, because time is not linear for them. Uh, the past, the present, and the
Right.
future are all experienced in the now. So that said, they will know a thought I'm going to formulate, or what I'm going to do, or stuff of that nature years and years before I even formulate that thought, uh, because of the nonlinear aspect of time for them. So you can imagine as a teacher how powerful a tool that would be, right?
Absolutely. And
So this is just a beautiful greeting, a friendship welcome greeting from the clan of RE. And I burst into tears, literally tears rolling down my cheeks. It was just like I was overcome just because of the heartfelt emotion behind this message. And I've got many, many of them with the same symbols or whatever, but this one was very special because of the um, the beautiful detail and the love that they put into its design, like the way that it's, you know, put on top of bark, and there's a little piece of moss there, and there's a fern and piece of leaf, and it's just like a work of art, and it just shows you their love. You know, it's I was overcome with it. But basically, this means friendship, welcome in the clan of RE, and this was left for me, and I just happened to walk. Well, didn't just happen to, because there is no coincidence with them. But
Nope.
I came upon it one day, and I was instantly overcome with emotion. It's quite beautiful, isn't it?
It's very beautiful. And I think, and RE already knows this, that I didn't have any form of culture shock when we first went through all this. And as you said, you got thousands of images, and we only picked around 44, 45 of some. But these are, in fact, I wanted to make the point, these are not some of the best. You've had some that you're not as prepared to share, at least not yet, of your experiences with them. Am I correct?
Well, no, these are some of my favorites, and there's nothing that I won't share because I'm an open book as far as they're concerned. If they teach me something as a representative or uh, of them, I feel it's my job or my responsibility to get it out there because they're talking about raising our consciousness and conscious shifts and whatever. They're actually trying to help the human condition. So I feel responsible to uh, to share everything. And I would say that a lot of these are some of my favorites, but there are thousands of more that are just as impressive and just as sentimental and just as whatever as these. But these are some good ones.
Well, thank you for that clarification. I did want that point to be made because sometimes I will chime in here when I know that maybe a viewer would have a question that perhaps we can answer early on to preclude any misunderstanding.
Okay, we can move on.
Okay. Oops. Just a moment. My bad. There we go.
Okay. Excuse me. I was told by a friend who's got a connection with Sasquatch to go to this particular place, and that he had had an encounter with a Sasquatch couple, and he called them elders, which means that they're very wise and they're kind of like the teachers of the clan, um, the most evolved, I guess, spiritually and in that sense. And my wife and I went to this place, and just we were just sitting here and just kind of contemplating everything. And recently we had seen a bunch of pictures of orbs and stuff, and so she got a thought in her head, which was placed there because this is an example of how they will put a thought in your head and then they'll show you something, related to that thought. I'm totally convinced of that because it's happened so many times that you get to see it for what it is. So anyway, we were seeing some images of orbs from a from a conference that I had attended recently, and she said, let me pull up my camera and try to start taking some pictures. So this is about the third or fourth picture of maybe 12 that she took. The first one was just completely black. There was no orbs or whatever in the picture, which precludes the possibility that what we were capturing was like water on the lens or bugs or something like that. There was nothing other than just total blackness on the picture.
And
Uh,
if I may interject, I apologize, but for the viewer's benefit, there's like a little fire that's on the right, but that was totally a stone cold fire. It had not just been put out or had been emanating any type of smoke or stuff, right?
no, actually, I photocopied the flame out. No, I'm just joking. I don't even know how to. I don't photocopy, not photocopy. What do you call that?
No, it's a Photoshop.
Photoshop. No, I don't even know how to do that. Yes, Eddie, you are correct.
Well, thank you,
It,
Brian. And
Eddie, you are so correct. It
thank you,
was no.
Brian.
It's just it. I don't know how to. Well, for one thing, it would be disrespectful to Photoshop. So I
And
would
I
never
don't
do
know
that.
how either. I wanted the audience to know I don't
Yeah,
care
no,
about
that was a
that.
stone cold fire. It's as seen. It was. It hadn't been burning for for who knows, months maybe.
Wow.
So anyway,
Wow.
like I said, we took a series of pictures, and the
Okay.
first picture was completely black. Second picture, you started to see a couple little dots, or I suppose orbs coming in. This is about the third picture, and you start seeing them coming in quite a lot. And these pictures were taken over just, like maybe a minute or so, all 12. So it was quite a fast sequence. So this is the third picture, and we see some orbs, or what people would call orbs, coming in. So let's go to the next picture.
Okay.
Then these orbs formed into this being or entity, I like to say. And you can see most of the orbs are encapsulated, I guess, within this being, right? And you can, looks like there's a trident.
Yep. Oh,
And you can see like a face.
well,
And I like that misty curvy thing in the middle there is
right.
really, really interesting.
And notice there's total disassociation between the ground, the fire area, or anything else. It's just an appearance right there in front of you and Susan.
Right. So it started the orb started forming into this one entity. And then we can go on to the next picture. Then the next picture, it was walking off to its left. And you can see there's a couple orbs there, but basically most of them are within the image of the entity, right?
Yes, sir. Yep.
So it's walking off to its left. Then we have another picture.
Next.
And then what appears to be what I see as a benevolent female face is smiling down on Susan. There's her knees there. And it just looks like it's just looking at her. And as you can see, there's no orbs anywhere other than what's captured in this image, right?
Yes, sir. And that right there is very similar to what I saw in the clouds.
Awesome. Okay, so then there's this female entity looking at Susan. And oh, it's worth noting that when I showed this particular picture to the fellow who recommended that we go there, he said that is the female Sasquatch that I was communicating with that night before
Wow.
recommending that you guys go there. So it was the same Sasquatch person in this image that he saw. So that's quite revealing too.
And
Okay,
like I
so
said, similar because
what?
they look like that. I said similar because they kind of look like that, but so okay, next.
Yep. Oh,
Thank you. It's
oh,
awesome.
hang on. Okay, yeah, we made this mistake before, but that's okay. Actually, just go back to the last picture, or can you?
I can.
Okay, so I just wanted to say, so then I got a knowing. I got a lesson from this, from the sequence of pictures and what I saw unfolding and what happened. And my lesson was, and like I said, when they give you a lesson with me, it's just like a knowing. You know what a knowing is, Ed. You've been
Yes.
involved in this stuff for a long time,
Yes,
and
sir.
I'm sure some of the people who are watching this would know it. It's kind of like you just know something, and it's more definitive and more concrete than waking up and seeing the sun in the sky tomorrow. It's just you just know.
It's beyond matter of fact. There's no other word for it really.
Yeah. So what I got out of this sequence of pictures is that this Sasquatch entity was bringing its consciousness in, all these orbs, it was bringing its consciousness in from all different points of reference and different points of consciousness and forming into one, which, to me speaks of a omnipotent being. I mean, they say God is here, there, and everywhere.
Yes.
And I'm not saying that these beings are gods. They're very highly evolved,
Right.
energetic beings. And a lot of my experiences have shown me that they can be in many, many different places, interacting with people for the purpose of bringing them together for a lesson, for instance. And I talk about that in my book, one very amazing experience, but it's not just that experience. I've come to know, and this confirmed it, these pictures, that they can have their their consciousness in all different points of consciousness and in all different areas. So I actually saw in photographs this being bringing its consciousness together. And is that what you see too, Ed? Do you see what I'm talking about?
Yes, I mean, when we first started this, I knew it. I could see it immediately. And I don't have the experience, I don't have the background nor the knowledge, but I immediately knew. So something was open and that energy was there for me to have immediate comprehension of what was happening.
Well, like I said, they have me representing them, so I'm very blessed. And it's a very powerful tool that I can illustrate the points I'm talking about with photographs, because it's much more compelling when you can actually see it and understand what's going on through a photograph instead of
Yes.
me just talking about an experience and not having the photographic evidence. It's way more powerful. So I'm very, very blessed and grateful for that.
Well, I'm grateful for you, and I'm so glad that we've come together and that we were able to put together something much more professional than our first try on my part. People,
And
but we
we're not digressing into humor as much either.
no, we're not. But be it as may, humor. We taped earlier, and we were at 2 hours and 20 minutes. And when I ended the broadcast, which we're really now glad because I came up with a much more professional format after doing some research of my own to help our cause, that I accidentally hit the wrong button and lost the entire tape. So
Eddie.
uh, I think
You know what?
Ari was saying, huh?
I've done
I
that
think
too. I've made
we all have.
videos and stuff and done all kinds of different projects and whatever, and then ended up losing them. And then when I redid them, I said, "Oh, okay, this is why, because this is much better."
Yeah, and we thought it was really, really good, but now already
It
almost an
was good.
hour into this, it was excellent. It was hilarious, but at the same time, the message I believe is even more organized, and Ari is smiling even bigger on our delivery today. So I'm blessed too, um, in all ways, shapes, and form.
Okay, now we can move on.
Okay, follow your lead. All right. Hello.
So sometimes their glyphs or their stick writing are actual, they're put out like sentences woven together or a message with from different symbols. And other times they just literally draw what they see you doing or representing you or whatever. Uh, Sometimes they, like I said, they can be very literal with these glyphs. And so this one I came upon one day, and it just is a stick man, and they're just basically saying, "We see you. There you are."
Excellent.
We can move on.
Okay. Here's the X and the RE signature again.
Ah, okay. Well, this is a good illustration of how they will put a message into some of their symbols or their glyphs. And the fish sign up at the top there, the oval thing, that represents my wife and I and our connection. And I've got literally got hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pictures of those in with many different situations and whatever that illustrate that point. There's no question. For me, that is the relationship between my wife Susan and I. That's our connection glyph. And this was found way up high in the mountains, and we actually found a trackway that day, a great big long trackway of Sasquatch tracks. There were no other people around. And I mean, when you find the consistent messages anyway, I mean, you just know. It just can't be a coincidence that you're finding this. You know, when familiarity is so much there. So this fish glyph is woven into RE's A. Okay. You
And
have to kind of look at it like abstract. So the fish glyph, which represents Susan and I, is woven into RE's A. And then off to the right of the A, you can see an X.
right
So this
here, folks.
basically says Brian and Susan are connected. You are connected to RE and his clan, and we are friends. Make
And is
sense?
there any, yes, it does. And is there any sense to be made of this that I've noticed in some of RE's signatures? The cross part of the A sometimes is, excuse me, underneath the one part of the A, and sometimes it is above. Is that significant, Brian?
Well, it's significant in the fact that, you know, I mean, I think anybody looking at this can see that it just didn't fall there randomly, which some people have tried to tell me, but they're just not looking at it objectively. And because their minds are not open to the fact that these beings even exist, let alone that they could
Very true.
communicate with you on this level. So they're not even going past the stage. It doesn't exist, so this can't be true. But yeah, I mean, when it goes over and under, it just totally eliminates the idea that it could be random. How is something
Exactly.
going to fall and it's going to like be woven over and under kind of thing?
And the viewers are going to see more evidence of this in the other photos.
Yeah.
Are you ready?
So move on, I guess.
Okay. This is so cool.
Uh, this is a direction glyph up top. You can,
Right here, folks.
and yeah, we went that away. Exit stage right. Or no, I think it was Snagglepuss at exit stage left, I think was his big
Ah,
thing.
that Snagglepuss.
Anyway, not bringing Snagglepuss into the equation here. Uh, it's a direction glyph, and it's complemented by an actual track. And I found dozens of these where you'll see a glyph and an obvious track. And it's just a further level of proof that they made it.
and
If you have any doubt, well,
and
here's
if I
our writing and here's our footprint to prove it, kind of thing.
and if I may add, Brian, that we can tell that this ground is pretty firm and solid, and it has a lot of small rocks in it. So you look at the imprint, and it's so heavy that it's pushed the rocks further down into the ground.
Oh, absolutely. Something big and heavy made that. That's only a Sasquatch could do that from walking in that. I mean, I walk on that, I don't make any impression whatsoever. It's
Right.
kind of the same thing where I see a lot of their sticks jammed into the ground, like I'm talking big, big sticks. And they can be 18 inches or so into the ground. And I'll pull it out and do a demonstration, and I can't even like barely scratch the surface, even make a mark. So yeah, a big strong being put this footprint there, and
Right.
uh, the same case with some of the things that they jam in the ground.
It's amazing stuff.
Yep,
And we'll
we can
see.
go on.
Yep, and we'll see more evidence of what you just said in these other photos.
You're getting to be quite a quick study there, Edward.
Oh, well, thank you, Brian. I'm really fascinated, and it makes
Now this
sense
is
to
the
me.
this is the one where you actually came up with something that I really really liked, and we'll talk about that. But on this particular day, I actually saw a Sasquatch. This was an amazing day, right off. One part of the day was I saw a Sasquatch cross the path right in front of my eyes. But let's say that the path was, and it was not very far ahead of me either. Let's say the path was like 12 feet wide. It was completely invisible, completely cloaked until it got to about the final 3 feet before walking off into the bush. And I've seen that on a few occasions where they just appear out of thin air. So they are interdimensional. They can cloak. They can just appear out of thin air. So this individual appeared out of thin air. I got a good look at him, and he just disappeared into the bush. A little later in the day, he left this track, and he circled it with a vine. And also on that day, I think I found about 5 or 6 of my wife's and myself our fish glyph, our connection glyph.
Mm-hmm.
And that was just around the time when we were going to be married, and they were really hitting us up with a lot of glyphs and messages at that time. Oh, and it was also a day when, well, when we get to that side, I'll talk about that. But I was also led off trail many, many times through thought placement kind of thing. I think I'll go here, and then I discover something. Or, like thought placement is like they'll lead you somewhere where they want you to be to show you something, or they'll put a thought in your head that after time you realize is not yours because you begin to recognize it, and then the answer will be right there. So that's kind of thought placement, which is mind speaking and telepathy too. But anyway, you made a very astute observation about this, and you're absolutely right. Did you want to say what you came up with?
Well, when thank you, Brian, and I was immediately hit. No other way to explain it. When I saw the vine circling the footprint, and for the viewers, they can mask any footprints they have. In this case, there was just one instead of a trail of footprints where they put this vine around the footprint as a sense of humor, saying, look what we left for you. That was my impression.
Yeah. And by the way, don't come up with any more astute observations. This is my show. I'm the astute one.
Well, okay, I'm only the host. I'm so sorry. You could carry on, Brian.
Eddie, don't rain on my parade. No, I
I
appreciate that.
promise I have an umbrella for you.
I'm mad at you. And I appreciate that because, in all joking aside, because they do have a really refined sense of humor. And the fact that you picked up on that is very, very, very cool. And it means that, and it also tells me that you're very in tune to what they're doing already. So that's very exciting for you and for me.
Yeah, and I'm blessed more than I can say, but thank you.
Yeah. We can move on.
Okay. This was wild.
Yeah, this is like an example of their like a almost like a whole sentence. It's
Mhm.
very it's put together. There's a lot of symbols in there. There's a Y stick in there, which means man Sasquatch connected. There's some of their signatures in there. Uh, I've seen many of these where the writer of the message will leave his signature at the end of the message. Uh, so it's really not that much different than the way we would write in some
May
ways.
I ask this, Brian? Do they, and because someone's going to ask it, do they write from right to left, or left to right, or up to down, or down to up?
My experience is left to right,
Left to right. Okay.
but in this particular one, it's left to right,
Mhm.
and I think it's generally left to right, but they can also go up and down too. It depends on the glyph, but I don't think they go right to left. At least, or maybe that's just from how I am used to looking at it, because I'm looking at it from human eyes and from my perspective, because we write left to right, right?
Yes, correct.
So
And there's
I'm
some
looking at
folks,
it from a human understanding. So
right. And the reason I say that is that there are certain cultures that write actually in tiers from up to down. And then, like in the Middle East, some that write right to left.
no,
But
they do up to down too.
right, and totally makes sense.
Yeah, we can move on.
This is so cool.
Ah, I remember I was telling you on the
Mhm.
just a few slides ago how I was led off trail to discover things. Uh, this was the same day as I saw the individual walking across the path, which I've seen, like I said, a few times. But that was this particular day that I referenced, and I found about four of these
Wow.
uh, in two different locations, and both times I only left the trail twice. Both times I came upon these amazing discoveries of this circle, and the circle is about connection. You know, they talk about boxes and circles in part of my lesson. Like boxes are when you're stuck inside a box of beliefs. Like some religions can be like that, or just like some of our prejudices against certain things are in a box of beliefs. But all true learning is learned outside of that box of beliefs. And the circle, everything moves freely in the circle, energy or whatever. There's not the boxes that preclude any learning, I suppose. And so the circle represents connection, all one, all connected.
May I share an observation?
I think you will, Eddie.
Thank you, Brian. For the viewer, again, take a closer look at this circular construction. It's been there a while. If you'll notice at the very bottom, there are ferns that have actually grown through this glyph right here and right here and here. And there's another indication over there and right in here. This has been laying here for a while.
The other thing is look at how all the sticks are curved. Can you
Yeah.
imagine how long it would take for a human to find? I mean, you can find sticks lying around. Even if they weren't curved, it would still take a lot of work to put that together. But
This
they're
is,
all curved.
and this is like, say, in the case, totally different than here, but of crop circles that are genuine, there are constructs of the corn or the shafts of the, plants that have been laying in a certain fashion that a human can't really do. And here is one of those examples
Yeah.
for Sasquatch.
Yeah. And like I said, I found about 4 of these that
That's
day. Each time I was led off trail, the only times I was to find these. So they were kind of guiding me to this.
awesome.
We can go on. Here's one where they're drawing me, representing me hiking. There's a couple dead giveaways as far as that the Sasquatch made. The actual body,
Mm-hmm.
and you see how there's a little snap in the middle there,
Yes, I can.
partially snapped.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of their things that they do a lot. And the little stick leaned up on
Mm-hmm.
the body of the individual is another thing that I recognize. Actually, that was one of the subtle nuances that they added on when I was going through my glyph studies and the university, Sasquatch University kind of thing, where
Mm-hmm.
one day I saw a stick leaned up against another one, and then I kept seeing them. So they'll introduce you to something and then continue to do it. So there's 2 or 3 things there that definitely I associate with Sasquatch.
And you don't think there was any accidental humor from Ari, the fact that they used your head as a rock.
Well, I never thought of that, but there's many different ways of looking at it. I mean, I just thought that it's kind of the shape of a head and kind of fits into the picture here. But yeah, it could be.
No, I
Definitely
was
could.
just being bland humor. Sorry, bland humor. The fact that Ari was saying you're a rockhead. So I just, he wouldn't do that. At number one. Number two,
Oh, he
it's an
might.
incredible.
He might. He's
It
not.
is true.
He's got a wicked sense of humor.
Well, it's still an incredible glyph because you can see the multitude layering of the structure that is showing you hiking, which is incredibly cool.
It is. Really is. Okay, we can move on. Uh,
Yep.
well, this
Yeah.
talks about the linear time thing and whatever too, and the fact that remember when I told you that they already know that I'm going to come up with a meaning for certain things before I even formulate the thought?
Yes.
This glyph was made 5 years or so before I came up with what one of the symbols that I'll point out to you when we move on in the story means. So my wife and I were camping, and we were sitting in front of our tent. And suddenly she heard like a big individual breathing in the bush beside us. And she said, I think that's Forstner, who was one of the Sasquatch individuals that I know. And actually, he's one of the guys that I saw walking across the path
Mm-hmm.
a few occasions. And the reason I know that is he confirmed it later in the day with his signature, actually. And how he did that was at the end of that day when I saw him walking across the path. I had a thought in my head, and I said, I wonder if they left a glyph. And it was really dark outside, and I had a swivel lamp on my head, and I turned it on. It just happened to be pointed down to the floor below me, and right there was a 4, perfect 4 glyph, which is his signature. So that's not a coincidence. You know, I
No.
had a thought. I wonder if they left a glyph. I turned my light on. There it is, framed in the light of the headlamp. And basically, what he was telling me is, yes, it was me who walked across the path, and I was the one who was with you through all the experiences that you had on the 2 days, because we were on a camping trip kind of thing. So, thought, answer. Okay, so on this particular one, Sue heard a big individual breathing in the bush to the left of us, which on this picture, obviously mirrored, looks is to the right. And you can see the big individual there. Can you see the little stick or the
Yes.
big stick?
Yes.
Just on the outside of the tent structure, because I look at that other thing as a tent. So inside the tent are Sue and I. There's 2 sticks. There we are sleeping together.
Yep.
Well,
Right here.
yeah. There's even the tent floor. Sue was very astute. She said they even know how to construct a tent. They've even got tent pegs there. So anyway, there he is outside watching us sleeping in our tent.
And
And
there he is watching.
yeah. And on the roof, oh, by the way, we found this the very next morning. I should clarify that. We found this the very
Right.
next morning after we heard him in the bush. So we
Mm-hmm.
found this the very next morning as soon as we woke up, about 10 feet from our tent, partially hidden behind this tree. And what he represented, or what this represents, is he drew exactly what he witnesses doing. So like I said, we're in our tent. There we are, the 2 sticks. He's outside watching us. On the roof of the tent is an X, which is friendship welcome.
Right here.
So he literally drew what he saw us doing, and he was talking about his friendship and that we were welcome there. But at the time that I saw it, and I took note of it, and I remember thinking about it, and I said, well, I don't know what this means. And do you see the stick at the 2 o'clock angle on that extends out of the top of the roof?
Yes, right here.
No.
Oh, this side.
Yeah, that one.
Right there. Yeah. I
Okay.
thought it was 11 o'clock. Sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. It is 11 o'clock, Eddie.
Thank you, Brian.
My mistake. Yeah, it is. No, yeah, right. It is 11 o'clock. Okay, so I didn't know what that meant, and you see it connects to the shaft of the side
Mhm.
of one of the tent walls and part of the X. So that forms a Y, as you can see, right? Can you see
Right.
that?
Yes. Right in here, folks.
5
Right.
years later, I decided, okay, you know what? Y means man, Sasquatch connected. So the
Mm-hmm.
long shaft, I mean, not the shaft, the long piece that is at the 11 o'clock angle means Sasquatch. The
Right.
other piece means man. So the 2 prongs, I guess, or whatever, represent Sasquatch and man, and the shaft means connected. So man, Sasquatch connected. As soon as I came up with that meaning, they started communicating with me with many Ys. As a matter of fact, the next day they did a really profound one, just to verify that they acknowledged the meaning, and that was the meaning moving forward. And as it turns out, had been years before I formulated the thought. So if you take, excuse me, into context, the meaning of this glyph, the Y, which means man Sasquatch connected, is so perfect for what he was trying to get across, the point he was trying to get across. So he literally drew us in our tent. He drew what he saw us, what he observed. He did the friendship welcome, but he also left an additional message man, Sasquatch connected. So he was talking about our connection to them. Isn't that beautiful?
It is.
And like I said, I want to clarify this. The linear time does not exist for them. They
Right.
know the past, present, and future in the now. So
Mhm.
this was about 5 years before I came up with the meaning for the Y stick. So this one and many, many other examples that obviously we can't go through here point to that precognitive knowledge of what I was going to come up with, the agreement we were going to have. And what a way to teach a lesson, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, we can move on. Ah, here's Mr. RE himself. And you have no
Yes.
problem seeing him, do you?
Nope, sure did not. From the very first time that you showed me this. Right there, folks.
Yeah.
All the way through.
So anybody who's a flesh and blood like G- gigant Gigantopithecus, hypothesis or giganta. Anyway,
Gigantosaurus?
what?
Gigantosaurus?
No, no, Eddie.
Sorry, couldn't resist
Gigantopithecus,
it.
I think, is the name. It was a giant ape that existed hundreds of thousands of years ago and apparently went extinct. Well, some people speculate that that is what Sasquatch is, but I'm here to tell you, if you can see this image, it's obviously partially cloaked.
Right,
So there's no Magilla gorilla that's going to be able to do that.
right.
So they are not apes. They are not common animals, dumb animals. They're not monsters. They're interdimensional beings. And if you can see RE there standing clearly right before your eyes, it's not a far stretch of the imagination to realize that that's not true. You know, they are
And
not monsters. They are not
no,
animals. They are not apes.
you've really
And
helped
there
make
he
them
is. And you know, I mean, I
understand.
can see his nose, his head,
Yep,
everything.
right here's his nose, folks, right there.
Yep. Yep. Absolutely. Yeah. I'm,
And there's similar notions of his head, yeah. And as you had said before, you, when this was taken, noted that Ari is around 12 feet tall.
he's a little over 12 feet, 12 and a half. So, and that particular day when I was driving into the woods, I was overcome with their loving greeting energy and I was literally weeping, like, you know, like literally the
Yep.
sounds and everything, and tears rolling down my cheeks because it's such a beautiful, loving energy. It's like overpoweringly beautiful. And I asked him to visit me that day, said, come and visit me. And I went around taking my pictures. And after the fact, when I was looking at them, or not actually me, my wife looked at this picture and she said, there's RE. He's in your picture. And so he took me up on my offer and did visit me that day. And we'll talk to you later, RE. Let's move on. Here's another one of those kind of complicated messages. It's got a lot of different signatures. It's got the Y, man, Sasquatch connected in there. It's got my B in there. It's got a roof of protection. It's got a lot of different things. And this is one where you know, like that you would kind of read up and down, right? What you were talking about?
Yes, because if I may, here's Ari's signature here in this case, and
Yeah,
here's the X of friendship right here.
yeah. And my B is in there. It kind of looks like um, a figure eight kind of or a kind of thing, but
Right
I take it as a
here,
B. Yeah.
right there.
And take note of the
Right.
interesting little oval thing that's crossed over on the bottom, because I'm not really sure what that means, but
That's
it's
beautiful.
interesting to note uh, because it verifies who the creator of these is. And if we go on to the next cliff, you'll see what I mean. You can see the same thing off to the left, right?
Right here.
Yeah. And they do etch in the sand too. They can make glyphs with rocks, with sticks, with ferns, with etching in the sand. And so I take that circle to mean something to do with connection.
Right.
And what that thing in the middle is fascinates me. I'm not sure. But I guess if I really want to come up with a meaning, quit being so lazy and just come up with a meaning. But
Well, or Ari can, mind sync with you and let you know by
well,
just asking him.
but I think you know, it's revealed in time. So whatever this means could very possibly be
Yep.
revealed in time, and then I'll look back
So,
on it and say, "Oh yeah, okay, that's what it
and
was."
for others to note, look again, the layering of other twigs and other things that are over the top of these drawings.
Yeah. Okay. Ah, another example of how they knew the meaning of a glyph years before I formulated the idea. Once again, there's Susan, my fish glyph, the main body of that glyph.
Right
Off to the
here.
left is a little leaf, which is Raja Say. She always has she's noted for a very artistic, sentimental, feminine kind of touch. So this was left by her. And I was doing a project, a video project about Sue and myself and our fish glyph, our connection glyph. And I was looking back at my pictures, uh, looking for this one specifically because it's one of my favorites because it's just so clean and beautiful. And then I looked at it, I said, oh my God, you see the little Y curved into it?
Right here, folks.
When I initially looked at it, years before I came up with the idea, the meaning for Y, I didn't know what that was, but I took note of it. Well, then with fresh eyes and with fresh knowledge and knowing what the Y stick meant, I looked back on it and said, oh my God. Once again, they were communicating with me according to that Y meaning. Brian and Susan are connected, Anne and Sasquatch are connected, and we're connected together. Pretty obvious, isn't it, Ed?
Yes, it is.
I think that's why RE appeared in the clouds for you. You're very perceptive.
Well, thank you. I try to be, but it's really something that was asked of the Lord a lot earlier than this that makes it more, it fits like a glove to me, Brian. And thank you because it just makes sense. But
Yeah.
all I can
You
say
know,
is I'm blessed. So,
I often wonder when I'm talking to people like you who are open, your vibration is quite fairly high or whatever. It makes perfect sense. But I wonder, with people who are just kind of not really, this is all new to them or whatever, how compelling this is. I hope it is. And I hope it opens some hearts and some minds and
well,
to the possibilities. But I wonder, who will all
well,
understand what
Brian,
I'm talking about.
yeah, Brian, if I may, then, you know, none of this is happening by accident. So many people are being programmed to live a singular linear material life um, without paying attention to the communication that's blessing us from above, around us, and all around. That doesn't happen by accident. And so all I can say is that, again, if we touch or help at least one person or more to learn and grow from this or become more receptive, then we've done our part.
Right on, brother.
You bet, brother. Ready?
Yeah, that brother kind of thing kind of makes me laugh. Like everyone, yo, sister, and hey, brother, and whatever. It's kind of like it's
Yeah.
become kind of,
Hey, bro,
all
Brian, man,
right, man.
the true brain,
Like all
man.
these spiritual people calling brother and sister and whatever, and it's kind of
Yeah,
like a little overplayed, but
yeah.
I get the idea and the sentiment.
Well,
Okay, this
to me, I look at the term brother like with a sister in the true agape sense that you are my brother, and I don't make anything else out of that.
everything in the universe is your brother or sister, or
It's
yeah, we're all connected. Everything is. The
yes,
trees, the insects, they're all family. We're all related. We're all connected. We're all
absolutely.
made of energy. The stuff of stars just put together in a different way to represent shape, function, and that kind of thing.
Very true. Very true.
So I was hit up with this blue beam of energy. And as I was walking into the woods with my friend, who was my mentor at the time, the guy who introduced me to glyphs and that, he said, soon you're going to feel like Bruce Lee. I didn't know what the heck he meant. I said, okay, whatever. That was an odd statement. But he took me to this place where he had experienced this blue beam before. And
Wow.
I didn't realize what was going on when it was happening. I realized after the fact when he showed me the picture. And it's also worth noting that in the sand along the shore there, we found quite a few Sasquatch tracks too. But anyway, as we're walking back after visiting this place, he showed me the picture. And right after I basically saw the picture, I started experiencing what felt like a scan coming up from the bottom of my feet up to my knees, upper legs, torso, moving its way all the way up. And it was like energizing me. And it was really, really dramatic. And it was not just a feeling, it was a real thing. It felt like a scan moving up my body. And it was a long hike in that day, and I hadn't had any sleep. I had worked a 12-hour graveyard shift, went right there with this fella. Little or no food. And on the way out, there's a really, really kind of a steep incline that always, I look at it and I say, oh no, here we go. And I usually have to stop 2 or 3 times and just, pause for a bit to make it up this slope. And that's on a good day when I've had a, full 8 hours sleep or whatever. This day I hadn't had any of that. But this scan literally energized me so much that at one point I was running up the slope backwards, passing my friend, just like laughing and just feeling like, oh my God. So the effect of this beam was dramatic, and I'm sure it probably had additional benefits to it. Could have been a download of something, because I've experienced downloads in the woods where I felt energy coming in through the top of my head, like streaming in. So it could have had a number of reasons for it, but that was one dramatic effect that it had.
Did your friend see this beam when he took the picture, or was that also after the fact?
I'm not 100% sure, but this guy's a First Nations guy.
Mm-hmm. Oh, please
Very
explain to the
spiritual
viewers.
kind of thing. So he I think he might have had some knowledge of it. Whether he actually saw it, I'm not sure.
But could you please explain First Nation a little bit?
That's Native people, Indian people.
Oh, okay. I had
Indians.
okay. I hadn't heard. I'm sure the viewers may not as well. But this
You
was
hadn't heard that?
no, not First Nation.
It's a very respectful way of saying, like saying Indians or Native
Indigenous
Americans.
people.
Yeah, indigenous. Sure, that's another nice way of saying it. Respectful.
Wow, just to see the timing.
And by the way, the Sasquatch live very much. That is why a lot of First Nations or indigenous people have great connections with Sasquatch, and they have them all through their oral and written history.
Yes.
Because they live very much in alignment and in tune with the Sasquatch ways of respecting nature, living in nature, understanding that everything is your brother, kind of thing. So their way of living, their philosophies are very much the same.
Yes, and if I may state for the record that the indigenous people, even of North America, before people from Europe landed, believed in a monotheistic fashion that called the Great Spirit, and it's not a thing of some guy with a beard sitting in the clouds. It's nothing like that. It's called love, and it's universal life of which we are a part. And these indigenous people knew that even better than the people who landed first in the United States before then.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, Eddie.
Okay, Brian, this is cool.
Yeah.
Yep.
Once again, another one of those glyphs that I didn't know what the full meaning was until I came up with the meaning for the Y. But as you can see, like I say that, I just didn't come up with this. They show me in many different ways. Once again, there's our fish glyph of connection,
Yep.
Sue and I, and the Y stick. And once again, it just talks about man, Sasquatch, the two prongs of the Y, connected, which is the shaft.
And look at this.
And then it's also attached to the fish glyph, which is Sue and I. So it's talking about our connection. And if you notice, there's also an A there.
Yes.
You see the A?
It's right here.
Yeah, right there, where it crosses over. That can also be an A. So there's, the clan of RE are connected. Man and Sasquatch are connected. Brian and Susan are connected. We're all connected. We're family, basically.
And Brian, I find this fascinating to see that a Y was made out of two completely different sticks, where the end here is moving away from the Y, but the overall Y of friendship is there.
Absolutely. And you can see the A too, eh? I mean, you have to have a trained
Yes.
eye and kind of, you're actually pretty good at spotting them now, Ed.
Thank you. I appreciate your. I
Eddie,
appreciate.
Eddie, smart guy.
I appreciate your mentorship, Senor.
Pretty soon you'll be a superstar.
Oh, please, no. Let's just move along with life. There's too much otherwise. It'll try to
But
turn
don't
you
you see
in.
the simple, the complexity, yet the simplicity and the
Yes.
beauty of the message there? I mean,
Yes.
is there any doubt that what I'm telling you, is true? I mean, you can see it right before your eyes, right, Ed?
Well, the answer is yes, because have you not noticed that not once have I asked you, did you ever lay any of these sticks down? And I
Well,
know
actually, I have because I communicate with them. I will write them messages and sticks too.
there, the
But
viewers have got their answer.
but everyone that I'm showing you here,
Mhm.
no, I haven't. It's all them. But yeah, I will do it. Not for the purpose of deception, for the purpose of communication with them specifically.
Well, for the
And it's
viewers that,
funny because
excuse me,
I've done that, and they'll come back and they'll change it. I'll come back and change it, and they'll change it, and I'll change it, and we're having like a conversation back and forth.
and actually, let me explain that when you told me, since I'm so close to the Sequoia Mountains and the Sierra Madres, that to go out and leave messages to attract them, they will see it and read it. And so I already knew this, but there are people who may not. But hopefully, these questions have been answered. Thank you.
Well, I've suggested to a number of people, and nothing's ever written in stone. And when you leave them gifts or stuff, sometimes they take them, sometimes they don't. If you leave them a glyph and put the intention out that this represents me, sometimes they'll see it and they'll play with it and they'll change it, and then there's the possibility to start a communication with them through that. But it's happened many times, but it doesn't always happen. I can't. It's not like
Oh,
slam dunk, but it
like you
it
said,
it happens a lot.
nothing is cast in stone.
Right. Okay. Uh-huh.
Rocky the Bullwinkle.
Dark-winged ducks up there too, as you can see.
Yes, we saw this the other day. Dark-winged duck is right there. Now that's just a play on words, folks. Please do explain what you found sitting on this bench area.
Well, like I said, they do a lot of stuff in and around campgrounds at times because they like to introduce themselves to people in a non-threatening way. Hi, can you see me? And then if that seed is planted, and considered with an open mind and an open heart, then there's a possibility of them starting a connection with you. But anyway, I found this in one of the areas I visit. And as soon as I saw it, I got mind speak in my head. One walks with four. Instantaneous. As soon as I saw it, one walks with four. And what that means is my walk and my journey with the Sasquatch people. And it's not a coincidence that I just happen to know four of them quite well. So if you see on the first section, and I think the section part is important too, because it talks about different
Right.
different levels of learning, I suppose, or whatever. So the one rock at the bottom represents me. That's one. In the middle section
Footprint.
is a footprint rock, which represent walks. One walks. And then on the top level with four. And that's the four Sasquatch people I know well. Ari, Borshna, Rajase, and Little Bud. And it's also not a coincidence that those four rocks at the top are in a circle, because the circle is a very important symbol for them, and it means connection. So there's, it's multi-layered, the message, but as soon as I saw it, I knew without question what it meant. One walks with four, and they actually left me the same message about a week later in another area.
Wow.
Identical message, and just beautiful stuff. Very humbling.
No doubt.
Very humbling to have a clan of these highly evolved beings take you under their wing and teach you and consider you family. And they have called me family. Two glyphs and in many other ways too. So they consider me to be family. And that could mean in the broad sense of family, because we're all family. And it could mean in the sense that I'm family specifically with them, which I think it means both.
And for the record, people to know that all this has happened, wasn't it? Not more than about 15 minutes from where you live.
Yeah, not that far. Well, I mean, they've come to my house and left glyphs. So,
which we'll see shortly. Yeah.
So distance, there's no barrier to them, but yes. But as a matter of fact, I'm going to go to the woods right after our interview. So can we hurry it up, please? No, I'm just joking.
Okay, watch this.
No, but yeah. Yeah, this is just a beautiful thing. This just, to me, is just universal connection. It's like the spider's web. Because one of the lessons they gave me, like I get a lot of downloads when I'm driving for some reason, and just these big knowings and all these answers, these knowings, like we talked about, come in. And this to me reminds me of the spider's web. And I had a lesson where I saw a spider's web, the analogy of a spider's web. And what it was is that every thought and action that we have affects everything in the collective. And so if the universe is like a spider's web, say, and I have a thought or an action or whatever, there's a sensation or tingling or vibration or whatever on one little strand of that web. But literally, it affects every other strand in the web. So every thought and action we have affects the whole, affects everything. And I think that's what this represents here.
And it's also the universal asterisk.
Oh, no, that's not a universal asterisk.
Oh, it's not. Oh,
I think that's just the. No, we'll see one. I think it's just
right.
Represents the web or just the big connection of everything. Which the asterisk
And,
does
by
too.
the way,
Which the asterisk does too. So you're correct there.
But also, can you note that these sticks, these pieces, explain how big they really are?
Yeah, and the other thing is that sometimes with a lot of these really important messages, like this one, for instance, when I returned shortly thereafter, it was totally gone.
Wow.
Sometimes these really important ones that they leave for you, once you see them, they won't be there long. They'll take them down or they'll remove them.
Wow.
Um, but you agree with me, right? Like every
Oh, yes.
thought and action that we have affects the whole, and that is why, when they say be careful with your thoughts, it's very important. Or the other thing is the lesson of the Sasquatch is when we raise our vibration into the vibration of love, where there is no judgment, no
Mhm.
hatred, no division, no fear, things like that. Um, we raise the collective consciousness, and we affect that. So it's very, very important.
I agree. Just amazing stuff.
Yeah. Okay, Ed.
I did. So the viewers don't really, I can't really see anything except the PowerPoint right now. So I'm depending on you, Brian, that I'll advance the pictures when you want.
we're
But
we're 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 working like a finely oiled machine here. We're getting through
yes,
this pretty good.
yes, I agree.
Although it sounds like we don't know what the hell we're talking about with our joking or whatever, we're actually doing a very effective job, I think.
Well, Brian, again, it's such an honor and RE touching my soul and sharing more now with what you know. It's to me, it's expanding the universe in a very positive fashion for those who are watching. That hopefully they can gain more knowledge about the true genteel nature of the loving spirits of higher vibrational beings.
Yeah. Well, they look at us like children. They're trying to wake us up to our true self. Because the way that we react and the way that we're programmed and the way that we're controlled so easily by the few,
Yep.
that's not our true self. They're trying to awaken us to our true self with these teachings and with these connections. So this is what I
Excellent.
call a dual signature glyph. And
Two
it's got
A's.
an H and it's got an A. And they're just put together so beautifully. And the H is Raja Se, Ari's daughter.
Mm-hmm.
And the A is obviously Ari. And it's a dual signature glyph.
Oops, sorry. But I was trying to point this out for you, the double A and then the H.
Yep. I think it's pretty self-explanatory.
It is. That's just really incredible.
Now, around the time that, well, they've been connecting with Susan and I through the fish glyph and through different messages for a
Mm-hmm.
long time. One other way that they connected with us is through houses in various states of construction. And sometimes there'd be like one of the walls would be askew or off at a different angle, or that it wouldn't be connected, or the house wouldn't look complete. And that was a reflection of how they viewed our relationship, you know, how they saw it, if it was in a good place or not, or if it needed some work. And I found dozens and dozens of those too. So this is one such house that I found right around the time we were married. It was either right after or just before. And you can see that the walls are all complete. And it's quite literal too, more literal than some of these other houses that I've seen. You can even see Susan and I on our beds, the two leaves on the bark there. And it's just like, you know, it's talking about our relationship and how complete it is. Isn't that beautiful?
It is. It's really, and something that I had observed and deliberated to you before that I'll share with the audience now is how such incredibly large creatures can so daintily put together these glyphs that in some cases are so small. How could a hand like that be so dexterous in the construction of them?
Well, they can move things through telekinesis and whatever too.
Right, that's true.
It doesn't necessarily have to be their hands, if
Good,
that makes sense.
it
Oh,
does.
and I wanted to make a point because somebody is going some wise guy is going to say, well, you're finding all these in the same place and somebody's playing a trick on you and trying to fool you. But
Not all in the same place.
no, that's not the case, because I have found the identical symbols, the identical messages in places like Washington State, Oregon. For instance, I'll be in a motel with my wife. We're on a little vacation or whatever, and we'll come out to the car the next morning, and there's not another stick or anything in the entire parking lot area there, and there's like an X or an A or something right beside my car door. So unless this is the one of the world's biggest conspiracies and whatever, which, you know, I'm not that important, obviously.
Or am I?
It's the real deal.
Yes.
It's not made by human hands. Now, I will say, and especially in the case of structures and stuff and rock stacks, there is some human. Obviously, humans build them too, and sometimes they're very hard to decipher who made what. You look for different signs and whatever to make an educated opinion on them, but they don't make them all. Obviously, that would be a serious lack of discernment to say that. But as far as the glyphs go, that's not the case.
And again, to reinforce what you said, this can happen many, many miles and even states apart.
Absolutely, the same identical message
That's
in, you know, in ways that it's just bizarre to think that it could be random. It doesn't, as hard as it is for somebody to grasp the idea that a Sasquatch makes it, with the areas I found them in and the consistency of the messages or whatever, it's even harder to think that it could be random. As a matter of fact, it's
Brian,
unfathomable.
I apologize for the error, but I noticed that I misspelled your first name on this frame.
Beyond blonde.
You're Brian.
Beyond.
Brian.
I am beyond belief.
Well, we sure proved the human condition on this frame. There you go.
This fellow, he go beyond the normal, eh?
That's cool.
Crazy. That was actually a good misspelling.
Yes, and we got a surprise coming up for the audience too in one of them.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but that anyway, that is an incredible construction,
Isn't it?
Yeah, and to find that in many different locations, which takes the edge off things.
This area, go to the in the middle on the right hand wall border kind of thing. You see the little mossy thing there?
Yep.
No.
Oh,
be a little more specific. To the left.
Oh, to the left, right here.
No, not there. The right hand, but to the left of where you were.
Oh.
See the wall? Okay, right. Yeah. That actually is a little piece of moss, and there's little sticks stuck in the ground that are supporting that.
Mm-hmm.
It's just incredible.
Wow.
Just incredible. And I've seen that actually before in just standalone things where they have done that, where they'll put a bunch of sticks in the ground, little sticks, and they'll put some moss on it, like a little building or something. I don't know.
I'm sure I'm wrong, but Brian, when I looked at this, it was like logs for a fireplace type of image I got.
Sure.
See?
Could very well be, yeah. I agree. Okay. Here's just another beautiful example of a glyph. Look how, you know, bright it stands out against the backdrop. It's just incredible. You know, I've got so many stories to share, but I've got one of 3 gift rocks. I received one a year over the period of 3 years, and it also involved glyphs connecting a lady into the Sasquatch phenomenon and opening up her journey. And it's just the most incredible story, but it's really can't do it justice with pictures. I like to actually show people the actual stones themselves, but I'll try to put that link, my YouTube video that I made of this story. I'll try to put in the link of this this video, but it's amazing. It's just amazing.
Yeah, and we shared a number of these stories, but after this will actually be uploaded into YouTube so that everyone can see this broadcast
Yeah.
again. And since it is quite long, you can always start and stop or pause wherever you'd like, or come back, like in this case, to this frame if you need to stop now, and you can return to it later.
Yeah. But I will, like I said, I will put that YouTube video of my gift rocks in the
Okay,
comments on YouTube.
okay.
And
That'd be
I recommend that people watch it because it's just a really, really beautiful example of just how mind-boggling this connection and the how the intricacies of what they do and who they are. It covers a lot of different areas like mind speak, connecting people,
yeah,
love. Just
and
it's
I
just
agree.
it's
And
brilliant.
just, sorry, just once you see this on YouTube, like you were saying, Brian, that there will be more comment columns and more references to these things. So both Pork and Beans and Universal Digest, please do take the time, if you wish, to subscribe to our channel, because we're starting to put more and more up, and that you'll find interesting and hopefully quite enjoyable and educational.
Yeah. This is a glyph when Raja say the female became pregnant. This
Mhm,
was just a glyph she left for me. It's very literal. She's
mhm.
telling me that she's pregnant. Isn't that
That's crazy. That's
that's
wild.
almost like avant-garde avant-garde art or whatever. It's just beautiful.
True. That's true. And
She's
here
got her head
is,
there. She's got her body. It looks like she's, you
yep,
know,
he's
pretty
carrying
pregnant. Yeah, like
carrying
the
child.
back is, yep, tiny little legs down below. I just
What
love that.
what detail?
Yep, go ahead. This is about 3 months into my journey when this picture was taken. And it's interesting because there were three of us actually there that day, and I think we had 4 cameras between us, and we tried taking about a dozen pictures of this structure. And that particular day, the Sasquatch were all around us, and this is
Hmm.
the only picture that had any kind of clarity to it at all. We couldn't get a clear picture, which is very common with Sasquatch. That's why sometimes when people look at pictures of them or whatever, and they look all flop squatch or they're not clear or whatever, it's because their energy is so high that it's really hard to get a clear picture of them. Uh, the other thing I find fascinating about this is, like, I swear I don't know how to do Photoshop, but as soon as I looked at this, I said, that looks like I'm superimposed onto that picture.
And I concur. I mean, it does. I know it's not. I can tell from having studied CGI imagery of people trying to fake things in ufology that this is truly you in the woods. But it's so well defined, it almost looks like it's inserted into the image.
It does. It really does. And like I said, this was about 3 months into my journey. And a friend of mine who's more of the evidence kind of type based person, he wanted me to go back and see if these pieces were pushed over or carried in. And so I appeased him, and even though I don't really care about that kind of stuff, I've never taken a cast, for instance, and I've seen
Hmm.
hundreds of footprint tracks because it doesn't. I just don't care.
Right.
But excuse me. But I did go back and I was investigating just to report back to him because he's a friend of mine. And as I was bent down looking at stuff to decide, pushed over, carried in kind of stuff, I got this feeling in my third eye area, this intense energy, which I know now, but it was the first time I had ever experienced it. So I didn't, it was dramatic and I didn't know what was going on. And I said, what in the heck is that? Well, as soon as I felt it, a few seconds later, I heard a crash, kaboom, and it sounded like two semi trucks colliding in the middle of the woods, like a huge head on collision. And I was, like I said, I was bent down. I jumped up. My glasses flew off my my face, and I wasn't scared. I was just, but something like that is going to startle you, right?
Startled. Yep.
And then I just started laughing and said, "Good one, guys." But what that was, it was a testamental, because they will not work with you beyond your fear level. So if you have a barrier of fear, they won't go beyond that. So you have to get over fear before they'll progress in your lessons. So that was like I said, a testamental. And it also speaks to the fact that they can put any sensory, audible, or visual experience into your field of consciousness. And it doesn't necessarily have to be happening in real time. Or for instance, you can hear like trees falling down, or you can hear like a huge crash or something, and you go and investigate and there's nothing there, because they can just put that into your consciousness without it actually taking place in real time. And my wife's experienced a bunch of that stuff. I have. Other people have reported it. So it's a real thing. It's a definite thing. For instance, you can hear like huge footprints, or not footprints, huge experience, like somebody walking up to you, and it sounds like heavy footprints, but you don't actually see anything. Well, they could be cloaked, or they could just be putting that into your field of perception. Like my wife was camping one time and she heard what sounded like a dinosaur walking up to her, Jurassic Park kind of thing. So that talks to that. Like I said, any sensory, audible, or visual experience that they want to put into your field of consciousness, they can. And it's weird. They can even go back into the recesses of your memory and bring out a memory or something from 50 years before, and that you've only had once, and present it to you again. And that actually happened to a lady on one of the campouts that I hosted, had that exact thing happen, and it was really revealing for her, and it was the perfect way to let her know that they're real, and because it verified an experience she had only had once. And they like I said, they retrieved it, gave it to her, and she just knew.
Wow.
Yeah. Okay.
This is wild.
That's the side of my truck. They just put their fingerprints on there.
And for those who are educated in camping and or being outdoors, that is not a bear print.
Oh no, you can see that's a definite fingerprint, or
Yep.
fingerprints, especially the one on the right. I mean, it's pretty obvious. The finger on the right.
No claws, no nothing. It's just a hand. Boom. Just like that.
Oh yeah. Yep. Move on. By the way, I wish we had like about 6 or 7 hours, Ed, because I feel like I'm, and I'm not trying to sell my book or whatever, but if anybody wants to get a more detailed understanding of who exactly they are, I've got a lot of these stories in my book that we can't cover, like talking about sapping and just some of the
Well,
stuff they've taught me, whatever, that we just can't cover because it's just too much.
it's an introduction, Brian, and I'm fully in your court with this. And since we're nearing closer to the end where we can show your book and the other links, I do invite people to get your book, to read it, and it will cover a lot more than we've done in a couple hours here.
By the way, have you had a chance to read any of the PDF I sent you?
You sent that, what, 2 days ago?
Yeah, you should have been done by now. I'm just
Brian, what are you doing? The answer is no, I haven't. I actually had Ari saying hello to me and you, and being on your broadcast. So I have yet to touch it yet, but I promised you, and I will read the whole thing.
This guy, eh?
Hey, and I'll get you a book and I send it to you. You sign it, tell me what a terrible guy I am, and then mail it back. And I'll be happy to put them in my huge library collection.
I could never understand that signature kind of thing. It just seems, I don't know. I understand it, and yet I don't, because like
It's respect.
uh,
It's
I
respect.
know.
Yeah.
I just can't believe anybody would want my signature. What? Yeah, it's just kind of like a modesty thing because it just seems kind of funny to me. But whatever, I
Oh,
understand it.
just sign it and laugh out loud and then mail it back.
Okay, this is a universal asterisk. It's about 40
Yep.
or 50 feet tall that they made in the woods, and you can see that the horizontal piece is like curved around a few trees there.
Yep.
Definitely not just deadfall.
Behind here, behind
So
this
the
tree.
universal asterisk, yeah, represents universal connection, of course.
Right.
Which you were talking about with that spider web thing. So you were kind of you were kind of half right.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I didn't need it because it was another construct, but I did see the asterisk in there, so I construed it as
Okay. Yeah.
such.
No, I hear you. Anyway, this is a universal asterisk.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Is it still there, or has that been removed as well?
It was there for many years, but it's no, it's kind of fallen apart now.
Well, and so that everyone knows from the size you said it was, no human could just throw this together.
Not not unless they had those what do they call those guys that climb up the trees with the spikes and everything?
Oh,
The
and
fallers and those guys.
yeah,
Not unless they did that
and
and
then
shimmied up the tree and let me put it this way, no person made that.
well, I was going to say the one question comes to mind. I'd say, why would they do it? So, except that it's universal communication.
Well, that's one of the things with some of the structures and whatever that, we can't say 100% that the Sasquatch made them all, or even if which individual ones they made, but we can go by clues like footprints around them and glyphs around them, and also why would a person do that? That kind of thing.
And then what we discussed the other day, I just have words for it now. If you look at all these branches right here, these are lateral branches off of this curved tree, kind of creating like a little net effect. For whatever reason, that's what I noticed.
Yeah, very astute.
Thank
We can
you.
move on. There's RE's face
Yep.
in an actual boulder. We had amazing experiences at camp trip. My wife and I, we were gifted a raven feather because they can shapeshift
Hmm.
into birds or people. They can actually look through the eyes of these animals, or they can actually material or shapeshift into them. I've even had an experience where 100%, and it was verified in another story by a friend, where they can even shapeshift into people. Because I've seen them do things where they appeared to be people that were humanly impossible. Uh, and I won't get too much into that because going on quite a long time. But you can read that in my book too. It sounds like I'm promoting my book, doesn't it? But
Oh no,
they can literally shapeshift into people, animals. Uh, I've had a thought, and then a bird, a raven, would fly right over my head. Just as I formulated I wonder if they did this, and then the answer, like a raven call, one single call, as it's flying right over my head. That kind of thing. There's real beauty of their connection with the things in nature and how they
and
can.
and if I could please add this for you, because you've said it before, but I want to reinforce this point for you. Sorry for the interruption, but it's important in my opinion. Notwithstanding what we've seen in other exotic cities and places on Earth, this is an example of molecular level construction where they have the ability to reconstruct matter any way, shape, or form that they choose.
Well, that talks about their shape shifting abilities and the things we discussed. And yes, that's what I think went on with this rock. They just changed the molecular structure of this rock into the image of Ari himself, and that is his face.
Yes,
That is his actual face.
incredible.
So, what does that tell you? Ain't no Magilla gorilla, my friend.
No, not in the least, my friend.
Another amazing story in my book is called The Berries of Summer, where they were interacting with my wife and I,
Mm-hmm.
and they left us a series of initials in the sand. My wife's name is Susan. My name is Brian. This is in a really remote area. It rains there almost every day. We didn't see another person there the whole 3 days. But so, you know, we know for sure because of, well, you have to, if you read the story, it'll become quite apparent. But anyway, they drew our initials in the sand, and how personal and loving and intimate is that?
It's amazing.
Just beautiful.
It is. I am humbled,
Yeah.
considering the true aspect of what we're discussing today.
But I don't know why they put her name first.
Well, it's because she was more important than you, Brian.
That part is quite disconcerting to me. However, stepping back into humility,
That's out of your what do we call it? The comfortable zone.
yeah. But yeah, this story is called "The Berries of Summer." It's in my book, and there's some amazing stuff, some stories, and I encourage people to read it, not because I want to make any money off it, because you don't make much money off books on Amazon.
Nope.
My entire objective is to open people's hearts and minds, and maybe it will facilitate a connection or between you and them, or at least open you up to the beauty in the universe. Like, for instance, I've got a YouTube channel which is called Sasquatch BC, the true story, and I've got over 500 videos on there, and I don't even monetize it.
Right.
Because I like putting copyrighted music in my music, and it's more about the art and the message to me than making money off it. So I'm not about making money. I'm into opening people's hearts and minds.
Well, I can verify that in knowing you as I do now, because we're of the same ilk. It's not about the money; it's about the message, and that's what's important.
That's absolutely right. Okay, we can move on. This is Ari's AX message.
Mm-hmm.
So this was left in the sand, right in the same area as where his rock image was in his face was in the big boulder. This is only like yards away from it. And it's once again friendship welcome, representing the X from the clan of RE, the A. And look at the on the left-hand side. There's
Right
a
here.
little one, AX, woven right into the main structure. That's
Right there.
just beautiful.
Yep, it is.
And it's funny and it's beautiful and it's amazing. And so as soon as we my friend and I, and this is my First Nations friend and I, shortly after we saw this, we were drawn to look into the woods, and it wasn't by coincidence. We were guided to look into the woods in unison at the exact same time we saw RE standing there. And he was, like I said, about 12 and a half feet tall, wide as a Volkswagen Beetle, whatever. I mean, his shoulders were just maybe wider. Huge, huge individual, probably 1,200 pounds or whatever. He just looked at us.
Yeah.
He acknowledged that I had seen this cliff because I work through the cliffs more than my friend does. At least my journey is a little different than his. He wanted me to acknowledge that I had seen it and that I recognized what it meant, just as an extra layer of proof. And as soon as we looked at him and he knew that we had acknowledged it, he just walked from left to right like he was on a conveyor belt, and supernatural, and just like, and then he just disappeared.
I think we have that image coming up, don't we?
Of what?
Of RE.
Well, we already saw the RE image, but that
Yeah,
wasn't
I
from
thought
that.
that
That
was.
wasn't from that time.
Oh, okay, okay.
Because when these kind of things happen, like when I heard them talking, we physically heard them talking for a good 10 minutes or so. When those kind of things happen, sometimes you feel like you're in a whole different dimension, and it's so supernatural that you're just, how do you like that face? You're just looking at, and you don't even think to take a picture or whatever.
Right.
As a matter of fact, when I heard them talking for the 10 minutes or whatever, I thought the next day, I had the camera around my neck. I said, why didn't I record that? Didn't even occur to me.
It happens. I've done the same, my friend. I've done the same.
And also, I'm
You're
not really, I've never actually taken a picture of them when I thought I saw them, they always show up in them. And that's kind of a respect thing, because I always say, listen, I'm taking pictures. If you want to show up in them, feel free. And
Right.
quite often they do. But I don't run around in the woods trying to get pictures of them or whatever. I take pictures of their glyphs and this kind of stuff because it's a teaching tool. And as you can see with what we're doing here, talking, how effective a tool it is. Look at all the look at the things that I've talked about as far as who they are and their messages or whatever that are clearly illustrated through these pictures. And so this is a teaching tool for me to represent them and to represent their truth. So it's quite a bit different. I'm doing this with their blessing. I'm not like I've never set up game cams. I would never do that. I don't try. You can't trick them anyway. So.
Well, it's more like me wanting to take a picture of hummingbirds that are a hummingbird feeder. It's not me catching the right moment. If I really want to do that, I have to sit and wait for them to come. So what you're teaching and showing through all this has been not just eye-opening for me, but it's totally common sense for me. I don't have another term for it. I take it as common sense. It's happening. It's right here. You show me. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, and the other thing was, is when I actually saw him, oh, that's okay. I can say it without, but okay, you can stay there. When I actually saw him in this encounter, most people would say, oh, I want to see one. I want to see one so bad. This was the first time I saw him, or one of them. I've seen them many times since then. But it was the first time, but I realized that all the lessons and all the love and the downloads and everything that they had given me leading up to that point were far more important than the actual sighting. The sighting was just like a cherry on top. Okay, we can move on.
Okay.
By the way, that glyph was 3D. You can see that, right?
The previous one?
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Look again, folks. How defined, how well
it's cropped
defined.
up 3D. Yeah. But it just felt like that, Ed.
No, it shows that. I noticed it as unique to, the other frames that we've seen thus far.
Yeah. Well, that's not the only 3D one I found. I found a lot of them. But like I said, I can only share so many pictures here. There's a track of one
Yep.
that was interacting with us as Sue and I were camping in a really special area to us, and he left his track there. Sometimes they can leave just one single track.
Right.
And it's just to let you know they're there, or a greeting or whatever. But yeah, it's amazing. There can be a huge area and you'll only find one track, and there's no evidence of any other tracks anywhere near. Or people have even reported seeing trackways in the snow, and all of a sudden they just stop.
Right, right. And for the viewer's sake, in this frame here, I did ask you, Brian, why didn't you put a ruler next to the print, to show how large it was? And your answer was?
Well, I don't carry rulers and stuff with me because of my mission or my interest is not in evidence.
Right.
We actually got protected one time in the same area. There was a big, huge bear right in the area, and we heard a large something crossing the creek from the other side, crashing, but we didn't see anything. I knew it was a Sasquatch, and he watched over us the entire night, taking care of us.
That's why I brought this up about somebody would ask about the ruler, but you mentioned for the first time that there was a bear in the area when you were camping that night. That is incredible, and knowing that you were being protected.
Well, actually, yeah, and it actually shapeshifted into an elk, and the elk was right behind our tent.
Wow.
And we even heard it bugling. But the funny thing is that it wasn't rut season. Elks don't bugle at that time of year, and an elk would not sit right behind your tent a few feet bugling and be there for for hours on end. It was the Sasquatch shapeshifted into an elk that was protecting us from whatever predator was in the area. And like I said, when we heard it crashing across the creek to come to the other side,
Mm-hmm.
it was, you know, wide open to our view.
Mm-hmm.
There's not a chance in hell that it could have been anything of that size coming across that we wouldn't have seen. It had to
Right.
have been something cloaked.
That is awesome.
Yeah. Okay. Move on, my friend.
I got it, my friend.
Here's an example of one of their structures. Like I said, you can't tell 100% that they made all of them. I know they make some of them, a lot of them, but I don't see a person making that. Why?
Why would they?
It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And if you can see the piece on the far right that's kind of curved up into the tree, you can see some rubbed off areas on it, right?
Right? Yes.
See some rubbed off areas on from the moss is rubbed off. That represents where their hands were. You see that quite a bit,
Mm-hmm.
where they will rub the moss off. So there's just things that you look for.
Well, a human, why would you even do something like that? You know, that's kind of a no-brainer for me.
Yeah, but you know, in order to use discernment and be responsible to what you're doing, you have to at least say it's possible.
Right.
But you know,
Well, that, in all fairness, yes, but not in this case that we have discerned.
I don't believe so. I really don't believe so. No.
Here's a wild one.
There's another one.
Yep.
And like I said, Ed, I've got maybe 1,000 or more pictures just of structures.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
But you know, we can only cover a couple in this, but this is kind of an interesting one. Yeah.
And no, I agree with you. I mean, we're this was planned to be the correct way. Okay. Anything else you'd like to say about this frame before we move on?
No, it's just a unique and interesting structure. You know, like, I mean, who's going to carry that big piece of wood in that's on the bottom too? That's quite a substantial piece.
Yeah. And then
Yeah,
look at the
and even just to put all that together is a lot of work. So it's just
yes. I
it
kind
just
of
doesn't make any sense to this people.
no, it doesn't make sense. And when I first saw it, when you shared it with me, I said, "Oh, look, a treehouse." But well, who knows?
Well, I've got pictures of some that are such intricacy of work, and yet they're so low to the ground that a person couldn't even get inside of them. No person, kid or whatever, if they're going to go to all that work, like hours and hours, maybe even days of work, they're going to want to make a fort or something. They're not going to put a big extensive thing on the ground that serves no functional purpose for them.
Right.
So, there's my friend Little Bud. Like I said, they sometimes they just show up in the pictures. I was taking a selfie of myself and there he is looking at me. You can see him, right, Ed?
Oh yes, here's his face right here, a little white tuft of something underneath. There's the
That's
head.
just a leaf, I think that, but
Yeah.
you can see his eye, you can see his forehead, his hair, his
Yep.
eyes, his nose,
You can tell he was
his shoulders,
juvenile.
yeah, his body, his arms.
Partially cloaked.
Yeah, which once again, these Magilla gorilla guys, and I'm not criticizing them. They're just they're just where they are.
Sure.
I'm not criticizing them, but I'm telling you, man, if you can see something in there, then how do you explain that they're just forest apes running around?
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense to me. And I believe when you were thinking of you were doing a selfie or something, and this appeared, Little Bud appeared. He sees more
because he follows me around all over the place.
There you go.
He's my buddy. I've even had rock throwing contests with him.
That's nice.
No, really, he's playful. That's in the book too. Go out and
yes, sir.
I see. I talk with forked tongue. I make millions of dollars on my book, eh?
Negatory, buddy.
My wife Sorry, Ed. I had to put a little bit of my warped sense of humor that nobody
Brian,
understands in there.
Brian, so the audience knows, our friendship has developed to a point where neither one of us can, in any way, shape, or form, be offended.
We can't we can't we can't be serious for any more than maybe a 30-minute segment, and then
It becomes a southern pasture direction until we recoup ourselves.
yeah. This is really interesting, and it shows their love too, because Susan suggested on the American Thanksgiving, which is different than the Canadian one that I celebrate in
Mhm.
November, she said, let me bring up a big container or a big container of turkey. She made a bunch of turkey, and we hid it away in the woods for them, set our intentions and said, this is yours. We want you to celebrate our holiday with us. Just not because it's important for them to celebrate a holiday, but just to be giving, and to let them know that we want you to share in it, family kind of thing. So that was the intention. So we left them a whole bunch of turkey. And the next day I was in the woods with her, and I got the telepathic knowing, a strong knowing that they had either taken the turkey or that at the very least they had acknowledged the gift. I just knew. And so we
Mhm.
went back there
Right.
after that, and right on the ground in front of where the turkey was, which was gone, they had taken it, and it wasn't an animal because there was no crumbs, there was nothing.
Mhm.
The whole package was taken.
Mhm.
An animal would have left a mess.
Right.
And of course, this speaks wonders too. But in any event, they've shown me many times when I've gifted them that it's not an animal, just because of what you find in some of the circumstances. And there's some funny stories about gifting too. But right at the foot of the tree where we hid this, secreted away this turkey, were these two fern frond bouquets
Hmm.
tied at the bottom, one for Sue and one for me. And that was
Wow.
their thank you.
Guess who this is?
I don't actually know who this is because this was in a whole different area. But what I can say is that day I was getting little rocks thrown out on the path in front of me,
Mhm.
which, I've said before that they're the way that they will react to you depends on how you interpret things. To me, when a rock is thrown out on the path in front of me, it's a hello, we're here. It's a greeting, and I'm all happy. Hey, my friends are here. This is cool. Other people will get their guns and start blasting away and think the damn thing's attacking me. I'm gonna be dead, and they'll just go the fear route. And so some of these people who report that kind of stuff, that's the kind of reaction that they will get from them, although they live to tell about it. And believe me, if they were really after them, they wouldn't be
Oh,
telling the story.
correct.
So they kind of give you what you give them. But anyway, this guy was leaving glyphs on the trail and throwing little pebbles out, and I was my wife took a picture of myself and my dog. This is cropped, and in the background was a Sasquatch individual watching us. And once again, you can see he's partially cloaked. But you can see his head, no neck, kind of thing. His
Mhm.
arms, both
Shoulders.
arms, his torso. You can practically see the whole figure. Just
Here's
maybe a bit of the
legs.
bottom of his feet are
Yep.
missing, but so there's probably a dip there of maybe a couple feet down from there. But
You can see that this is like the road and the ridge, and then as I've seen many times in the woods, then it slopes down like a gentle grade. So
yeah,
actually, most of his leg or half his legs are underneath the level of this walkway.
yeah, you can probably see him from maybe I would estimate the knees up
Hmm.
or somewhere around that area. But yeah, his feet and the bottom of his legs are missing. But I don't know. There's there's not much doubt as to what I'm seeing there, and there's nothing really there that could cause that shadow.
No, there isn't.
People will say, "Oh, it's a shadow or something," but what's causing that shadow?
Yeah, well, someone may construe it looks actually like there's a little water back here,
Yeah,
and there may
there's
be a ray of sunlight. Yeah, But
There's nothing that
this
could
is
be
so
causing that to
no,
make the shadow like that. It's what it is. It's one of the forest people. I call them
and,
people
and to the
watching me in a
yep,
partially cloaked state.
and to the viewers, when you showed me this, Brian, I found it immediately. Remember,
Every one I showed you, you could see immediately.
it's incredible. Yeah, yes,
I
that's
I, I put these on some groups. These particular pictures we looked at
mhm,
and others, and I got comments like, and believe me, it doesn't bother me at all.
right.
Maybe 2 or 3 years ago, it used to get under my skin, but people would say, "Nope. Do you see dead people? Uh, Nothing to see, that kind of stuff." And it just, okay, that's fine. You either
It,
see it or you don't.
right. Brain blank. I
Yeah,
could not
that,
resist.
that guy brain blank, yeah. Sacre bleu.
Sacre bleu.
Swearing in French for anybody who's interested. So this is my wife and I having a selfie. And remember how I said that they can appear in clouds or in mist or appear in any kind of shape?
Mhm.
Now this one might be a little harder for some people to see, but to me it's very easy to see. There is Re right beside us in mist form,
Right.
and and he's the smile, the big grin because because he loves humor. He loves to laugh with her. Is I gotta admit, I feel it more than I see it, the grin, but I clearly see his two eyes and his big bulbous nose. And
It's
I
right
could
here.
see and I can feel the glee and the photo bomber mischievousness of it.
There, the bottom section, almost a little bit of the smile, but the bulbous nose is here. His left eye and right eye right here.
And he's just being a clown, like
Yep.
just joining in. And I mean that talks about the compassion, the love, and the humor of these amazing people. I mean, and actually, a lot of people when I show that to them can see it. So
Well, and look at the marvelous people that are in the picture otherwise, enjoying and being happy. There's
my
Ari.
my beautiful wife and a brain blank.
I couldn't resist that, my friend.
Well, I look like I don't have much common sense in that picture, so I can understand your transgression. You will be reprimanded at some point.
It'll probably
I
be
haven't forgotten, but
Ari. Ari's going to say, "Hey, Edward, very good job."
but can't you feel the emotion
Mhm.
in his expression? It's just like he just wants to be loved and just wants to be in there and be a clown and just like, I'm photobombing you, kind of thing. And don't don't you
I
don't you
felt
feel
it.
that and see that?
Yes, I do. I do. No question.
Yeah. Okay.
Now for the real face too.
Another face in the mist. I've had a lot of beautiful supernatural pictures like this. Like I said, these are just a few. I've got one of universal energy actually swirling around trees and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's just another one of them, but that to me is Re's face in the mist.
Yes.
He's just checking in. Here I am. This is one of the glyphs, friendship welcome, which represents the axe that they left right in front of my townhouse that I lived in at the time.
Yep.
So they came right to my place in town and left this glyph.
On the asphalt.
Yeah, and there wasn't any other, like I said, there wasn't any other sticks or anything of any kind anywhere on the asphalt. Just these two.
Which is a dead giveaway. If you have sticks, twigs, or something, they will normally be plentiful from their host tree or plant or whatever. But for this
Yeah.
to be here in the middle of nowhere by itself
Yeah.
is not accidental.
Well, with all due respect, I've had peachers. What's a peacher? I've had people
Someone,
send me, yeah, what is a peacher? Do you have a definition for that?
yeah, someone who eats peaches. I'm
A
a
pooch
peacher
a people
today.
who eats peaches.
Yeah,
But anyway,
right.
I've had people send me pictures of like a bunch of sticks on the ground, like just a big mess of sticks, and like sticks will cross and do all kinds of things, and they're saying, well, I see these symbols in there, and I'm not so sure. But when you see it like this,
Right.
It's there's not much of a stretch of the imagination to know exactly what's happening. And I don't want to disrespect these other people because you know what? They present themselves to us as individuals. So
Right.
they may be seeing something in those images that I'm not seeing. I'm not, I'm only the expert or whatever you want to call me. And I don't even like that word, but only if it's for me, then I have the knowledge or whatever. I can't tell you what anybody else sees or well, I can as far as seeing commonalities, and I can look at something and relate it to something of mine, and then say, this is what I think's going on or whatever. But as far as the glyphs and the symbols and stuff, that's an individual and personal thing.
Absolutely.
So let's move right on there, Edward.
Okay, Brian. And here we are in the bog of stench.
Well, like I said, you can't tell who makes all of these structures or whatever in every case. But this is in like a bog where there's water year round, and it's really quite deep and it's really muddy and you kind of sink into it. And if you think that a person went out there and made this, which is no easy construction,
Right.
then that's harder to believe than for somebody even who is skeptical that a Sasquatch made it. Didn't
And
happen. That was not a person that went out there and made that.
nor a beaver.
No beaver I know.
Uh, And I
And
did
and
that
and and and,
misspelling.
and that's a Canadian is our national animal or whatever is a beaver, and I've never
Right.
seen a beaver like that.
No, it was quite large. Can you give the audience an idea of about the size of the structure? What was the size?
Oh, I'd say 6, 8 feet, maybe 8, 9 feet tall, maybe.
Here you are. That explains it. Because beavers do it about 1 to 2 feet.
Yeah.
Just taking
Well,
that,
might have been a Sasquatch shifted into a beaver, but
boy, that'd be a packaging condensation there.
yeah. But
Um,
like I said, I've seen so many times when they've been in the form of animals or people, and their behavior and whatever, and the circumstances, and just how they show up at the right time and what they do leaves no doubt that they shapeshift. And it, like you said, it's the same thing as what was in that rock. They just
yeah,
changed the molecular structure or whatever of themselves or whatever, or an item or a rock or what. Yeah. Okay. That's a picture of a couple friends of mine, and there's a little structure to the left, and there's actually a Sasquatch watching us from the right, and I picked
right
him up
over,
right away.
right over here, and he's leaning.
Yeah.
But this picture does not do proper justice that I constructed in the PowerPoint
But you know
because,
what? I still see him clearly.
well, so can I. Right there. He's there. But when we expanded the picture so that I could get a more clear view, I'm here to tell you I cannot expand it in this format, but we could see it so clearly. So
But we can expand your minds in this format.
that's very true.
Very
Well,
true, Ed.
very true. And this,
Ah,
uh,
one of the things I talk about a lot is and there's a few stories in the book about this too,
mhm,
is the fact that they can actually place pictures on your camera or they can remove pictures from your camera. And actually they can even you can even have a picture, and this happened to Susan the other day, my wife, where she took a picture and then she looks at it and nice picture, whatever, and she'll look at it later and they add something to the picture after the fact. They
Wow.
actually put a friendship welcome X in one of the pictures
Hmm.
from her trip to Hawaii that was not there when she took the picture, and it's looks like it's superimposed on the picture, and it can't even be supported feasibly just by the way it's laying or whatever. So they can add things to pictures. They can remove pictures from your camera, which they've done with me many a time, or they can take pictures. And this is one that Susan and I were in the woods in Oregon with some people who are open-minded. And I didn't take this picture. It just showed up
Hmm.
on my camera. And you
Amazing.
had some thoughts on this too, didn't you, Ed?
Well, yes, thank you, Brian. What I had noticed, there's a huge difference here between taking an in motion panoramic picture as to um, having blurry film, because the certain areas are well defined within that. So it's not blurry, it's well defined in what I see. And but it may have been taken during movement, but it's what Sasquatch took at that moment, even though you both were in motion, and it got her in the picture.
Yeah. Yeah. Very interesting. And I've got a few pictures like that for sure.
That's wild. That's wild.
Yeah.
Well, here we go. Um, it's your book.
Yeah. There's my book, Sasquatch Story, My Life with the Clan of RE. A lot of teaching that they gave me, a lot of really good pictures. I've got color and black and white versions of it and Kindle versions. The color versions, unfortunately, are quite pricey because they make you charge a big price for color. Unfortunately, I
Right.
don't like that.
Right.
But if somebody really wants a nice book in a hardcover or a soft cover color version, they would be quite nice to have. But you know, you can get the whole story like for cheap as $7.99 on Kindle with color pictures, and you can also get a black and white paperback edition for like I think $15 or something. So I don't charge very much, and I don't make very much either. But it's talks about my 10 years experience with them, and even after I finish the book, I'm thinking about it. I'm thinking, did I say this? Did I say that? Do I have to add? I'm already thinking of doing a revised edition because I'm a perfectionist, so I'm never happy. So I'm going to have to actually read the book again and see exactly what I didn't say in it. But it's quite comprehensive, and it's unlike any other Sasquatch book you read because
Right.
it's definitely not monster oriented, and
Oh, it's definitely not like
and it
any.
it really it goes quite far out in who
It,
they are.
yeah, I remember on Amazon your book, full color hardcover, is 53.99, and which to me that's the one that I'm going to get to send to you because of the definition of it. I'm a little different than you there, Brian. Although I'm a perfectionist, I also believe, like being a musician, once you've started playing the song, when you make a mistake, just keep going. Do not go back and fix it because you won't be able to.
Oh yeah, I'm a singer, songwriter,
Oh, wow.
musician, magician, musician myself, and
If you're a magician, then uh-oh.
but when yeah, I agree with you. I mean, I always felt that I was going somewhere and retrieving these ideas and whatever, and they're never as good as when you initially get them. So some of the songs I was writing, they changed very little from when I first came to them. First,
Hmm.
when they first came to me, and I always have to have a little tape recorder or something right on the spot because once you've heard it once and then you try to duplicate it, it's not the same. So I agree with you.
Well, thank you. And Brian, I'd like to add this to what I have observed in the past, even in ufology and the people that I consider to be spot on, valid, truth telling individuals with no agenda like you are, they're musically inclined. And so am I in the past. Not so much now because of the IT work I'd done before I retired. My goodness, though, there are guitar players, songwriters, pianists, you name it, and they tend to be the higher elevations of vibration, so to speak, tend to be very artistic as well.
Yeah, I would agree with you. And they also tend to like nature
Hmm?
and they have a lot of the higher vibrational qualities about them that attract them to the Sasquatch and vice versa. Because that's why when you're out in the woods or whatever, don't talk about viruses and politics and stuff like that because that's lower or judgment. That's lower vibrational stuff. Sasquatch are on a high level. You have to kind of raise your vibration to kind of meet them in the middle. That's when you have contact with them.
Well stated. Um, I must agree that since I've been in other arenas that involve politics, and I've gotten away from that, especially in social media, because any and all of it is low vibrations for me now. And although I'll do something for an educational purpose, that's not where my mind is. Otherwise, Ari would have not contacted me yet, in my personal opinion.
Probably right. I would say right for sure. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
Brian,
He doesn't want. He's not going to contact somebody he doesn't think that he has um, who is willing to listen is and is open. So
right,
that's
and I'm humbled and I fully agree. And again, for people seeing this book, I do highly recommend you obtaining it if you're in the market to do so. And this is where Brian Bland, the Sasquatch story, more to come. Please go to YouTube. That is Sasquatch BC, the true story. And that has been how, where you can find Brian Bland's work on YouTube. Because Pork and Beans is more his Facebook social media site. And you can find that group on there as well. And we here at Universal Digest have been totally humbled, and we like bringing you what we consider to be not only valid but honest speaking people with no agendas, and you are such, Brian.
well. Thank you very
Therefore,
much.
oh, my pleasure. I'm humbled and honored. So, folks, there's Brian and Susan Bland. Please feel free to purchase Brian's books at the following links that we've supplied with Amazon. And there are two different links there. One shows the black and white. Grayscale, excuse me, like with my publications, grayscale pictures are much less expensive to create. But if you can use grayscale scale and get the effect or the awareness of what one viewing that picture could see, then that's fine. I think in some of my work, it will be fine. In Brian's work, I recommend that you get the full color pictures because you won't get the definition otherwise of seeing Sasquatch and or other glyphs as detailed as Brian has supplied.
But let me say though, if you like buying Kindle, you can get the full color pixels,
Pickles.
pixels, but the full
Oh,
color pictures on the Kindle version, and it's only $7.99.
thank you. There you go. There you go, folks.
So if you
So
don't
let me,
actually want to have a physical book, the Kindle version is good. And you know what? I just want to clarify too that I make very, very, very little, and it's not about making money, but I make very, very little on the actual books. I actually make more on the Kindle, but I'm not trying to sway you one way or the other. Uh, if you're a collector and you want a really fine book, uh, the color book probably the way to go. If you just want the information and still have the benefit of looking at the pictures in color, maybe Kindle's the way to go. So,
thanks
but
for that.
I'm just excited to share my story with and even within the pages of that book, I still can't cover a lot of the stuff I've experienced. There's
And
so
for
much more,
Brian,
but it's a good
mhm.
it's a good compilation of experiences and covers a lot of the main things. So pretty proud of it.
Well, viewers, please And when I move forward in the frames, you can always go back on YouTube and see these links. So that being said,
Well, I'm going to do the closeout, aren't I?
oh, absolutely.
I
There we
can't
go.
remember what I said last time was pretty good though, Ed. Can you remember what my closing thing was? The
Um,
gist of it?
I am sure that in your closing, you will not only duplicate it, you will improve on the original. And the answer is no, I can't remember everything because I am a human. And coming
And,
back
and
to
and you
this,
weren't listening too.
oh,
I
and,
trick you. You don't listen, eh?
and again to the viewers before Brian deliberates his closing, I will state this is close to a 3-hour video. We really hope you enjoy it. We covered a lot of information, and as Brian has said here, it only covers a little bit of what he's really done. So I invite you to find his book and get it. And Brian, it's such an honor to have you here. You're a good friend now, and we'll at some point get us all together. And thank you for opening the doors for me as well to experience what Ari has to say. And in closing, I'll turn it all over to you. This is Ed Smith at Universal Digest, wishing everyone the very best. Thank you very much for watching. And Brian, it's all yours, sir.
Well, I would say that if you're interested in what I talked about and you want to have a connection with Sasquatch, who are amazing teachers and they will enrich your life with everything they do, you just basically have to approach them from a respectful, heartfelt position. And literally, you can just go out into the woods and sit there, or you can do it right from your home, actually, even too. You don't have to go to the woods. I enjoy being out in nature, but basically, your intent has to be, hi, I'm Brian, for instance, and I'm open to meeting you. And just make it as simple and heartfelt and as genuine as that. And I would like to say that the Sasquatch people are not monsters that they're portrayed in all these TV shows and stuff, and uh, people who talk about them, and because these are trying to sell viewers, and fear sells, um, and all that kind of stuff sells, but that's not, in my opinion, who they are. They will give you what you give them, and they're universal teachers, and their message to me is one of introducing us to our true nature. We're like children in the universal collective who are ready to take that next step. And that next step revolves around love, which is the basis and foundation of everything. And the universe is about love. And all the things that we've been programmed to do over our history and make us easily controlled by those who want to keep us controlled are not our true nature. And so the Sasquatch people teach us about love, respect, all one, all connected. And that means that you don't place yourself above any animal or anything or nature or anything. We've removed ourselves from that and separated ourselves from that. And so when we do that, we move further away from who we truly are, because we really are all one and all connected. So go out there with love, without judgment. With this knowledge, you won't have any fear. Don't believe in the lies that are being propagated on the news and the media about division, separation, race, religion, and all these things that keep us separated. And I'm not saying religion is bad, but when it separates people and says we're right and you're wrong, this kind of thing, that's not right. We have to remember we are all one. We're all part of the collective. Love is the foundation of everything, and this is the key to our conscious shift. This is what's going on. This is why we're being contacted at this time. That's why people who are having these kind of experiences on my level or other levels, or just being introduced to it, that's what's going on. We are children waking up to our universal collective nature and our true selves. And so that is the message and the beauty of the Sasquatch people. And thank you, RE, for buzzing me with this big amount of energy I'm just getting right now. He just hit me up. This is their message. This is the message for you. And this is the secret to the conscious shift. This is the secret to waking up, I suppose. And I give you this message. Oh boy, am I ever getting hit up with energy. I give you this message direct from the heart of RE and the Sasquatch people. Got me emotional now. And I hope that you consider it, because it's a good thing. So thank you, RE. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Thank you, Ed, for having me. And thanks.